This is S4 with your host, Eric Cooper.
Greetings, folks, and welcome to S4, where we talk about the real issues involving paranormal and current events, coming to you live from the S4 headquarters in the heart of the Cascade Mountains of Washington State. We also cover topics such as disaster and terrorist response and preparation and veterans issues as appropriate. So tonight, it's May 17th already, and it's time for our monthly roundtable, where we will pull in some guests, discuss questions our guests bring in, and sit back and discuss the paranormal and current events. Tonight we have Barry Gaunt, Kentucky MUFON, and the host of Into the Fire, Francie Miller, our site consultant, Joe Allgeier, our California consultant, and Rosella C. Rowe, author and host of Haunted Ireland Tour. So, Cole, how's our May promotions going?
Good luck getting that out again. They're doing great. We are doing the month of May giveaways this month, so this one, we've got a lot of entries coming in. Keep it up, guys. You're doing great. You send it in to s4radiowinner@gmail.com, and you send us a paranormal story. Can be your experience or any other that you know of, and we will read them off as we go through the next couple of months in the show. And then each week we're going to be picking a winner. We've got one more week of regular ones, and then next week we have a big drawing. Next week, we go between everyone who has entered, and we're going to be giving away a bunch of stuff. We got a big package coming for them, so get your entries in, guys.
And third hour, we'll be reading this week's story, right?
Yes.
And it's really cool because we've gotten a lot of haunting stories, but I know you said there's some that are done haunting.
Yep.
And so we love your haunting stories. Don't get me wrong, but oh my God, the paranormal is such a broad range. So I just got done watching, all 8 episodes of Hangar 1. I was kind of disappointed because it's a great show, and it got cut. So now I'm binge watching, and I'm going to start from season 1, but Ancient Aliens. And so what I do when I watch these kind of shows is I sit there and I pause after each speaker comes on, and I take their name down, because I'm going to be approaching a lot of these people to come on the show. So we can actually talk about these topics a lot more in depth. So how are we all doing tonight, guys? It's May Roundtable. This is one of our favorite shows, and going by our ratings, it's one of our listeners' favorite shows as well. So this is where we kick back the third weekend of each month and ask questions. So I'm going to kick it off because I usually don't. I usually pick one of you. But so 2020, how are we all doing? And this has got to be one of the craziest years, at least of my lifetime. What do y'all think about 2020 so far?
Well, the first couple days were good.
Yeah, the first month.
I'm not allowed to swear that much, so I'm going to not answer that question.
Yeah, bring on 2021.
Yeah.
But here's the issue. That's what we said at the end of 2019.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've been saying that since 2012. Come on now. We got to have a better year.
In April, we were saying it can't get any worse. And then murder hornets. Yay.
And that's weird, too. I don't hear anything more about the murder hornet. I haven't seen any more news about the murder hornet. It kind of dropped off.
Well, they probably killed the one that they found.
Oh, yeah, maybe. So I think this is probably the worst we see the media. I think the media has shown how they glamorize and
are completely
sensationalized.
Yeah, there you
anymore.
go. That's the word I was looking for. I mean, look, the pandemic. Don't get me wrong. I firmly believe the pandemic is real. People are dying. I know people that are dying and have died. So it's a real virus. Are the numbers being exploited? Possibly, but either way, am I going to risk my family going out like normal? Hell no.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to think. It feels like, like Izzy said here a week or two ago, it feels like Jumanji. Oh, what's coming up next? Here comes the murder hornet. Well, I don't see the murder hornet. After talking to a local beekeeper, he's more worried about a bee mite, I think it is, than he is a murder hornet, because there is actually a bee mite that eradicates complete hives, and it's more of a threat than the murder hornet is.
Tim says next month it's squirrels with flamethrowers.
Is what?
Squirrels with flamethrowers.
Oh, bring it! I've got a shotgun. Bring it.
Chestnut.
But wouldn't that really just be a Zippo?
I had somebody say it's going to be land sharks.
Oh God, Sharknado.
Land sharks.
Right?
Yes. Sharknado. Can't wait for that.
So, what do you think, Barry?
Is anybody having weird dreams?
Yeah.
I always have weird dreams.
I kind of chopped that down to
I've
always
had
doing
way
it.
more epic, long, weird dreams since this all started.
I'm doing everything I can not to dream right now.
What kind of dreams have you been having?
I do want to say, it's hard to pinpoint dreams right now, especially because everyone's got high anxiety. Everyone's got, and come on, coming from a psychiatric therapist perspective, wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah.
That the high anxiety and the uncertainty of the future for some is going to impact what you dream about.
I have to admit, I did have a really weird one, a couple nights ago, and it was like a Dick Tracy story. It was even in black and white, which made it really weird. But
oh yeah,
yeah.
I've had people from 30 years ago in my dreams. People I have not even thought about for that long.
Yeah.
They want you to call.
It's like a mini life review or something.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know what to tell you, other than maybe it's just the uncertainty thing, and you have more time to sit in your house and reflect.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe those people that you thought met 30 years ago or worked with 30 years ago are coming back in your mind because of the reflection.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but I mean, every time that you look at your Facebook, every time that you look around your house and you see things that you haven't thought about in a long time, it'll spark memories of specific people. Oh.
How about you, Barry?
Hey, I am doing awesome. Just hanging out here in Kentucky, where the weather has been crazy as a loon. It's been rainy all the time, then it gets sunshiny. It's been cold, and now all of a sudden it's 80 degrees, and we're still having rain. So I feel like I'm living in Washington.
Right? You know what? You guys went off the radar, and now everyone's looking at Michigan because of all the wannabe patriots with weapons going to the state capitol.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. Kentucky's always somehow on the radar,
right?
In some way or another. So but it is interesting times, and we're just trying to put that behind us and move forward. I think it's a good time to move ahead. Looking forward to doing a bunch of paranormal investigations. I think Hall's open back up. We had a lot of people out there milling around and looking at stuff. So we're happy about that. And, UFOs are going strong as always. Hopefully we get to do a little bit about that and everything else. But, I can't understand, and maybe you guys can help me understand, why do people have such a blind faith in the government and authority lately?
I don't listen to government. I listen to scientists.
I think it's because the majority of the people don't really know who to turn to, so you turn to the face that you see the most. It's a comfort for people.
Me, I listen to the doctors. I don't listen to the politicians.
Yeah,
when you listen to the doctors, what are you hearing?
I think a problem I see with the doctors is all these doctors think they're experts. And,
Exactly.
So, for example, you got the 2 emergency room doctors in California that came on YouTube and said, oh, nope, look at the numbers, it's all fake. Okay, so if you're a doctor in BFE and you haven't seen any cases because you're in BFE and it takes a little bit longer for the virus to get to rural, and all of a sudden they say, and I took a class in virology. So what, that makes you a virology expert? No, it really doesn't.
Okay, I have to admit, there was this one going around Facebook where there was this doctor, and he said, yes, I am a medical professional. And he went on this whole rampage about how this is all fake news, everything is terrible, and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And so...
Is he the one that got the virus and died?
No, me being me, I had to go and look him up. I had to. And he's a foot doctor.
Oh, a podiatrist.
And I went, that's awesome. Okay.
Yep.
You're out here claiming all this stuff, and you take care of people's feet.
And that's exactly why we went on the Upriver group and said, no more. I don't want to hear what your doctor said. I really don't give a damn. So here's a problem. Do I fully trust the CDC? Not really. Not totally. I will read. And, the other problem, you got Dr. Fauci. Well, Dr. Fauci's a professional, by all means. But so much is coming out, and you don't know what to believe with what's coming out because, the Democrats are hating on the Republicans are hating on the Democrats. There's so much division, and you can't believe the media because the media twists everything they all say. So, but, all these rumors and conspiracy theories, I'm starting to hate conspiracy theories, seriously.
Eric, you're an expert in crisis management. This is really not the way to manage a crisis, is it?
No, it really isn't, by any means. And so I'm not here to hate on Trump. That's not the purpose of the show. I think everyone knows where I stand with Trump. And I've got my own reasons. I didn't like Trump before he became president. I thought he was a crass asshole. His entire business and acting career. But no. Because in one breath he's saying, oh, we got to stay home. We got to, in the other breath he's saying, oh, the governors will handle it. He passed the buck. And in the other breath, he's saying, it'll all go away. It's going to be a miracle. And so, who do you listen to? People have hated the government since the beginning of time.
Yeah, but it's cool. We got the super duper missile now.
Oh God! You had to go there, didn't you? Yeah, the super duper Space Force missile. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I see it being a super duper crater here pretty soon.
It's gonna be super duper. Oh. Anyway.
You know what? I have to disagree with that, Eric, and I hate to do that to you, but when you're saying that people didn't like the government and haven't been with the government for forever.
Uh-huh.
Back in the 40s, 50s, and early 60s, man, they backed whatever the government was doing.
Well,
they were really American, very much 100% behind the military, everything else, and then it all started to wean away. And it all started with
that. Actually, that goes with one of my questions, which I'll get to later. But you're absolutely right. It was all pro-government. When did that change?
I
Well,
hate
for
to
me-
say it, but Vietnam changed people's perspective on the government.
I think it changed when Kennedy was shot in '63.
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm young, but I do agree with that.
Yeah, and so, I was born in '69, so I didn't really get into politics, I guess, until I was about 7 or 8 when I started reading the newspaper. And so, that would be Carter. I remember Carter. And obviously,
You were born in the best year there was for music.
Oh, absolutely. Duran Duran.
That's automatically where you go?
Friends off.
Oh, college. Yeah.
No, actually, oh, God.
Get out of my house.
Iron Butterfly. I like Iron
Wasn't Barry
Butterfly.
Manilow big that year?
Huh?
No. Blind Faith,
Cream.
Cream.
So that's the problem I had. So I was born in a very, very devout evangelical Christian family. I wasn't allowed to listen to rock music at all. Other than when I
Have
got
you made
my
up
little...
for it?
Huh?
Have you made up for it?
Oh, God, yeah.
No.
No,
No.
not yet.
What?
You listen to that freaking new age
That was an
crap.
answer like
No,
Duran
I
Duran.
listen to techno. Okay, if you can't get past my techno, yeah.
Oh, Cole, you are the last person that should be talking about crappy
Right?
music.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So,
there you go.
no, growing up, I asked for a transistor radio, those little tiny pocket AM/FM radios. Yeah, as he says now, if Duran Duran goes, is my go-to. Yeah. So, I would walk out, because we had 40 acres in the mountains, so I would grab my transistor radio and go listen to the local station. That's all I got, a little transistor radio. But I think I made up for it, because so I showed cows in the fair, and part of their training that I taught them, as funny as that might sound, was I'd take a big ghetto blaster and I'd make my cows listen to heavy metal. That was part of their training, because when you're showing in the fair, they have to be used to loud noise. You got carnival rides.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Well, you've got carnival rides in the background. You've got, all kinds of commotion. Your cow has to be able to block that out. So she would be in the barn. I would play heavy metal. And that was part of her training. So, yeah, I did listen to AC/DC. I listened to good music as I got older and kind of got away from my parents' reign.
We had a few guys in 4-H in Drumheller that had cows.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what they used to do?
What?
They'd take wax and actually put a daub in their ear.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say they waxed their hooves. But that's
Supposedly,
probably true.
it's an old pirate thing.
Okay.
That's the reasons pirate wore
Pirate?
earrings. Yeah, that's the reason they actually wore earrings, is they'd have wax on their earrings, and when they got into a battle with all the cannon fire, it would actually make them deaf. So they would take that wax and quickly put it in their ear when they started firing the cannons.
Right on.
Huh.
Wouldn't the parrot pick it out?
Anyway,
I never had a cow, but I did have a horse, and he was a Leonard Skinner fan.
Right? There you go.
How did you know?
Huh.
Because I played it, and he'd come in the garage and hang out with me.
Right? And drink beer?
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Oh, wow.
So, Rosella, how are you handling 2020?
Well, I've actually had a hard battle because I actually nearly died in November. I had organ failure.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I had a gallbladder issue that started shutting down my other organs. So I'm really lucky to be alive. And then I decided to complete tasks that I've always wanted to do, like finish my book, then start the blog, and start doing ghost hunting pretty much full time. And then I got sick with 2 rounds of horrible flu. And that really nearly took me out because my immune system was really bad. So I was lucky to live through that. And then as soon as I got better, the quarantine happened.
Right.
So I feel like I've been stuck in this house for a really long time.
Well,
so yeah.
Things will pick up. I'm not going to jinx it all and say, oh, things are, yeah. No, things will pick up.
Well, and I've actually, I'm in Ohio, and they started opening up. And I went to an investigation last night where a shadow man really almost knocked me over. I've never...
Last night?
Yes, last night.
Wow.
I was, actually, it's Wandle House, I think is how you pronounce it. And it's a historic location, the Historic Society letting do some private investigations recently. And I was in this hallway, and I kind of felt like no presence. And I had my hands on my hips just standing in this small hallway. And then all of a sudden, this shadow figure, it was kind of like a ball of air. I felt like a cold, movement of air, like a ball was kind of just rushing through the air by you, and you kind of turned to see it. And this big shadow person was running by me, and then he just took off down the hallway and disappeared. So it was really interesting. I've never had anything like that before. I've seen a shadow man, but I think he actually ran through my arm, literally. So it's just the rush of cold air that I felt.
So did you guys, how many were on the team? Did you practice social distancing?
We did.
Okay.
I was wearing masks, like a mask. But, some people chose not to. I know that was kind of their choice, but we all were really far apart from each other for sure. I was in the hallway where my friend, his name's Scott, he was in another room. So we were pretty far apart the whole time. And some members of the team are kind of older than me, so they were really respectful and nice. And we were joking about bumping elbows, but we never even did. It was just a joke.
Right.
But yeah. But traveling there, I was shocked to see all of the towns basically busting out with people outside. I was driving by in my car, and I saw so many mass of gatherings of people. They were pretty much hugging, and they were not anywhere apart. I was shocked. I was just driving by them with my mouth open. So I'm kind of waiting for the Ohio results to be pretty bad.
Well, hopefully they won't. I'll just say that. Hopefully they won't. And I guess I'm to the point where to each their own. Our family's staying home, and we're not going to risk anything. But, yeah, you see it everywhere.
The new research shows that it's more indoor enclosed spaces with bad air circulation are way worse than outside spaces. I mean, you should still practice social distancing, but it's the indoor spaces.
I've heard that too.
I saw my favorite one last night.
Oh, what?
Farting causes COVID-19.
Oh, yeah. If underwear doesn't block a fart, how can a mask? Yeah, okay. Well, yeah. I saw
I had
that
a hard
too.
time getting masks, ordering them. So I got a mask.
Sorry.
I got a mask at the Paranormal Investigation, and now I have one, or else I wouldn't have one.
Well, they're not hard. They're not hard to make. I know Izzy's looked at YouTube videos and whatnot. She's made some.
Oh, good idea.
I made a bunch.
Yeah, they're not hard to make, and it's kind of weird, but we were getting ready for starting up the CERT team back in December, and so I'd already ordered 20 masks just for my CERT kit. So we already used up all the masks we had, but she made some new ones, and so we've got new ones. Plus, we bought some from a friend. So, yeah. So, Joe, how you handling 2020 in California?
Well, 2020 sounds to me like it was written by Stephen King and it's produced and directed by Quentin Tarantino.
Right.
For me, it's not too bad. You know, I'm up here in the middle of nowhere in Tahoe, or just west of Tahoe, and you know, I've been training for this staying at home and not seeing people thing for years.
Right.
And it's nice to see other people trying to handle it and they can't. And
isn't that funny? It is funny.
I haven't been off the mountain.
No, I absolutely agree. You know, being military, we train for crisis. That's what we do. That's what combat is. So, yeah, I have my anxiety times, and I'm always, you know, I'm in combat mode, so I'm always aware, I guess is the word. So it's weird because the commissary at Fort Lewis has always been one-way aisles. That's nothing new. That's nothing new for me. So now all of a sudden, you know, Fred Meyer and Walmart, and they all have, you only go down the aisles one way, and people are freaking out and going the wrong way and whatever. And that's not a new concept. Militaries have that concept in commissaries for, 20, 30 years.
Yeah, but name the last time we was ever in a grocery store.
Huh?
Yeah, it would have been back in the 1920s, 1930s
For
when we
anyone
had
that's
one-way
not
aisles in a grocery store.
You got to remember, there's some people that have absolutely no touch with the military at all.
Oh, no, I get that.
And those are the ones that are, like, actually freaking out about this because they end up halfway down the aisle and realize they're going the wrong way because people are looking at them like they're the scum of the earth.
Oh.
Right.
And so, constitutional rights, there's nowhere in the Constitution that says you have the right to go to a store. Or, you know, I get the Second Amendment aspect because some places are trying to take weapons away. But there's...
Section C of the 45th Amendment says I can go down the aisle either way. Don't even.
The Constitution says that you can freely assemble, you can worship where you want, you can have whatever business you want, and the government can't say whether you can stay open or closed. There's a lot of governors that are closing everything down. That's not constitutional.
I get that.
Like right now I'm in Northern California, and we haven't been hit hard up here.
Right.
And they're starting to open things up slowly, but I just heard that Los Angeles County, the mayor wants to lock everybody down until the end of July.
It can't. It's not one size fits all.
That's fun. It's interesting, but you know, it's against the Constitution. They can suggest you stay home, but they can't order it.
All right, let's move on to Roundtable. Joe, what's your first question, by the way?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, this one was kind of aimed at you and a couple of your people there, but let's say you have a Bigfoot emergency response team.
Okay.
And you go out and you help people.
I like
and
it.
You go out in the woods and you're looking at the situation, and one of your members disappears. Then you are charged with their disappearance and their murder. What do you do?
Oh, God.
Do you tell the authorities that Bigfoot got him? Which, you know, I'll visit you in the jail, I guess.
In order to answer that question, I need to know if it was Kayla that disappeared or Eric.
It was Cole that disappeared.
All right. Perfect. I just tell everybody he went back to Canada, nothing to worry about, and it's all good.
So for one, they can't fully charge you without a weapon or a body.
That not entirely. If there was enough blood splatter.
But that's not true.
Yeah, do you know how many people are sitting in jail without a freaking...
Yeah, no, I get that.
They haven't even been charged, half of them.
So I would probably call, and I'm going to say it, I'd probably call Michael Hall, the paranormal lawyer.
There's a paranormal lawyer?
Yes, there is.
Yep.
Wow.
And in the meantime, pull some of my outside resources in to be looking for coal.
And to be honest, I'd
Thanks,
probably just eat my
Thank you.
He said he said it was coal that disappeared.
Yeah, but I'm thanking you for actually looking for me. My wife wasn't going to even look.
Oh no, I'd be sitting in the psych ward eating my lime jello because
Right?
I'd be like, no, we were out on this Bigfoot expedition and this thing came out of nowhere. You know where they'd put me.
So, yeah, no, I'd pull in some outside resources that we do have. They have Jeep teams that would be up scouring the mountains.
Well, that's the point. It's kind of like a fire in the sky
absolutely.
paranormal group, and it's like if something does happen, the authorities say, "Hey, you went out in the woods with this guy, and you came back, and he wasn't with you. What are you going to do?"
You were the last person that saw him.
Yeah. You're the last person that saw him.
Well, and look how so with Travis Walton, look how they treated his team. I mean, they treated them like criminals.
Okay. The first thing I do have to ask Joe is, what would a Bigfoot emergency response team consist of? Like, what would that do? Show me where the Bigfoot touched you?
Well, let's just say someone's having trouble. They're getting rocks thrown at their house. They're
so we did have a case like that.
their
Actually,
dogs and goats are getting murdered and disappeared. And
well, we had a case similar to that where the guys were freaked out because they went up here and they actually saw a Bigfoot standing in the tree line with a spear. Now, I've never heard of a case like this. This is the first case I've ever
wait
heard
a
of
minute,
a Bigfoot
with a pointy stick?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now
yes.
that's the first time I've ever heard of a Bigfoot that actually had a weapon of any type. And it was in our backyard basically, so we went up there and set up some cams and whatnot.
There's that lady in Darrington that got the full tree thrown at her.
We didn't go up there for that one though.
No, but you've heard of Bigfoot with a weapon. He just used bigger ones.
Well, he threw a tree, and she probably pissed him off because they left garbage in the woods. You never know. It doesn't take much to piss Bigfoot off.
He knocked her car off the road.
Well,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, honestly, for us, though, I think that we would have enough documentation. We do use cameras. We do use the...
No, but it's Bigfoot. They all go white noise.
Oh, that was perfect. Yeah, I don't know, man. No, wait, dude.
All of your documentation goes kaput when he shows up.
Not if you take his arm off.
Right?
Well, you could have a lot of documentation, but I could just see you in court saying, okay, Cole's missing. You were the last people with him in the woods, and your defense is, well, I got game cams set up.
Well, absolutely.
You're going to jail.
So
you're going to jail.
So what's your thoughts, Barry? You kind of handle the same kind of stuff as a response. Do you have any input? Is Barry still with us?
Barry.
Did you hear it? Hey, I'm here.
There you are.
He broke his mic again.
I would quickly whip out my copy of Missing 411 by David Pilatus and give him a copy of it and say, deal with it.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
You know, that has been happening so often and so many times. And, you know, we all assume a risk when we do anything in the paranormal. You know, it's one of those type things that, you know, even when you go to a haunted location, you'll sign an agreement saying that they're held harmless because of the fact, and we even have our team sign it, that everyone's held harmless because of the fact that you're making a conscious decision to go out in a dangerous situation. And believe me, folks, anything in the paranormal is extremely dangerous. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a whole plethora of things that can happen to you out there, and you know, so that's the biggest thing that that I would do. I'd just pull back on that and go, you know, I'm sorry that it happened, but this is a fact of reality of the things that we do. There is a cost of us going out and being a boots on the ground field investigator, working in the woods, going in national parks and so forth, because the history is so littered with missing people. It's amazing.
Oh, absolutely. And you know,
I really like the politest defense.
Yeah.
I'm sticking with that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank
Hey,
you,
Cole,
Joe.
let's go on a Bigfoot investigation. Yeah.
Oh, we have all the camping gear. We got all that when I wanted to go for toilet paper.
Let's honestly say, if we went on that and that happened, you'd be the one to disappear. He would look at me and say, "Nope, he's too freaking heavy. I ain't carrying that."
Yeah, that'd be me. That'd be me.
But what if you fall through a portal?
I wouldn't
That's
fit.
interesting.
You know, and that's interesting because that actually came up in the Ancient Aliens episode I was watching today. Actually, this morning they're talking about stargates and portals, and I think that's becoming a bigger topic of discussion for a lot of investigators and scientists. The fact that wormholes exist, and that's possibly how spaceships are getting here. You think? I mean,
Yeah.
we've been talking about that for years, but they're just now coming around talking about it.
I would hope that if I fell through a portal that there was breathable air on the other side.
I was thinking about that.
Right? You fall to a portal to Mars and you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, what's
And no
that?
Mad Hatters or little white rabbits with waistcoats.
Nope.
Oh, my God. That would be terrible. Oh.
So,
Well, you know, if you get arrested and your defense is he fell through a portal, you're going to be an inmate at Arkham Asylum.
That's what I said. I'd be sitting in my psych ward eating my lime jello going, I don't know.
Absolutely.
Ugh.
But you know, the more of these, the more I'm watching, the more I'm watching on Ancient Aliens and whatnot. The more the whole portal theory with Missing 401 is becoming really more plausible.
Oh, it definitely is. You know, and also you got to remember something, that when CERN switched over from trying to figure out the Big Bang Theory and started dealing with the portal effect and trying to open wormholes, they kind of stopped that too, because we don't know exactly what came through. There was I've heard a lot of rumors about that and so forth, but you're dealing with something different. We've seen, and I've personally seen in two different locations, one in Pennsylvania and one here in Kentucky, that we worked on it, dealt with portals, and one guy was basically knocked off a tractor. He was riding a tractor, and the tractor was half gone and half in the portal. Didn't go all the way through, and he was knocked off of it. And the other one, a house actually appeared, and it looked like people were walking around, and it's an area where I go quite frequently, and I will not walk in that area. It's just like going, you don't know what you're going to get into unless you tie a rope around me, and I know that I'm going to be able to pull it.
Right? It reminds me of, hey, Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore.
Right, exactly. But and I'm not too sure that the military is not using those right now to move in certain areas of the country, because I believe we've looked at and seen evidence of that happening also in other locations.
How else are you going to get to Mars quickly?
Right?
Well, it makes sense.
It certainly isn't the Space Force.
Oh, no, wait a minute.
All right, Rosella, what's your first question tonight?
Let me get them out. Okay. Actually, my question that I really wanted to throw out there was, why do you believe that ghosts, basically spirits, imitate or mimic someone or something? What do you think they gain from mimicking? So, in my house where I grew up, I had a ghost that mimicked key sounds. That whenever my mother would come in, we would know that she was home because she would put her keys on the table, and you would hear the key sound hitting the table, and it would go through the whole house, and we would come running out for my mother. So the ghost learned that we would come out of our rooms to see my mother, and it picked up this sound, and it would start every night at 9 o'clock on the hour until dawn. So that's why I asked the question, what do you think that it gains from it? Why do you think it comes up with this idea to mimic?
I think it gains energy.
And I'll go right with that. I think it's two things. I think one, attention, because some of them do want attention, and the other is fear, because fear is energy, depending on what the spirit is, and depending on what kind of entity it is. But if they create fear, they create energy that they feed off of.
Right.
I'm not sure if it's fear they're going for. I would kind of go for the idea of them just trying to get your attention, whether it's for good reasons or bad.
Right.
They know that if you hear that noise, if you hear that voice, you're going to react.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Rather than just ignore it. I mean, they still might want to, lure you into a room and cut your head off, but you never know.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it fear exactly, because, like, anytime you pay attention to them at all, you are feeding them energy. You're feeding your energy towards them.
Yeah.
They can feed off that energy, whether it's fear, whether it's sadness, whether it's happiness, it doesn't matter. They can feed off of it. Fear is just the one we all go to. Well, not us in particular, but most people would go to because something was weird happening. Like,
oh, come on. If you heard that, you would be screaming, running out of the room.
No, I'd tell my kids to put the goddamn keys down.
Yeah. With mimics, we actually think that mimic is an actual classification of a spirit. They enjoy mimicking. They will do voices of other people. They will do anything. But it is to throw you off and to make that anxiety level go up, because they do feed on that. Anytime a spirit is, that's trying to do something to get that, they do feed on it. And as they feed on it more, the intensity continues to go. Your reaction was run downstairs, see where mom is. You had an anxiety of seeing mom, and you had an energy level that says, oh, great. Well, they were using that to be able to pull, and that's why that allows that energy to get stronger and stronger and continue to go through the night with it. If you'd have just ignored it and said, that happens every night, forget it, and it might just go away because it's bored. It's like some of the spirits. We talked to a lot of people that have been to cemeteries, graveyards, and they go in, they try to talk to a spirit, and then it will follow them home. And the people who do not react to it, even though they hear weird noises, and their mindset or their reality says, oh, that's the house that's just settling or something like that. They don't seem to have a problem very long. It may last for a week or two. And then the people who will continually egg it on and want to talk to it or try to say, what are you or whatever, that develops more into a major problem because it stays longer and longer because it now has somebody to talk to.
That's interesting.
Actually, I did ignore it, and it got worse the more I ignored it. So I kind of, unfortunately, I had a different experience.
How long did it last?
10 years.
Really?
Until I left. I had to leave.
What kind of experience were you having?
So when I was a kid, basically, I grew up in a haunted house, and I would hear footsteps every night and day, really, too. But then I saw basically the apparition of the woman who she killed herself 23 days after moving out of the house that I lived in. So she was a previous owner. And then I moved in. And then so 3 years later, I started to notice all the activity because my older sister and brother moved out. So the house was really crowded before. So we didn't probably notice it, but it was going on. And then it was constant, like footsteps, doorknobs moving, furniture banging, basically like the keys all the time. I saw doppelgangers, and the door would blow open. Basically, the dog would run away every night at like 4 a.m. So a lot of things. I also got knocked out by another ghost as well. because my friends actually had a seance in my house, and I think that they brought in something else. That was another story, but
yeah. Well, that's it, and that's probably the reason why you had 10 years of problems.
So she actually wrote. She's writing a book about this. She was on the show last week, and she actually has a book coming out about those experiences.
Interesting, excellent.
So 2095, it's the address of my house, and we just finished the cover, so I'm excited. And it is a mailbox, of course. And then I've kind of branched on that. I do the haunted investigations for my travel. It's called My Haunted Travel Blog. Plus doing the tour of Ireland. So I have a lot going on now. But yeah, I actually lived in another haunted house later. My husband and I bought our first home, and it wasn't haunted when I moved in. But then after we got our stuff, it became haunted. So that was another interesting thing.
Did you brought the stuff from the other house so they had an opportunity? Did you have any antiques attachment to follow you?
Actually, I went to college and everything, so I came back to the same town. And this was a spirit that I still don't know who it was. It just kind of appeared when our stuff came. It just was there because we lived in the house for a while and then nothing. And then when we got our things, it just appeared. So I'm not sure.
So an interesting theory that came up when I was checking on like mimicking and different noises that certain ghosts make and stuff was that it's not actually a mimic, it's just a repeat of the actual event through space and time portals. So, because your mother did that constantly, like every night she would come home and put the keys in the thing and it would make that noise. That somewhere within your house there was either a portal or there was what you call like one of those space-time rips, and that noise projected through it.
Just a basic residual haunt, where it's like limestone water will allow a anomaly where it kind of like acts like a tape recorder and it discharges all the time.
Exactly. If it was a continuous of the same noise.
Just the same way as it was with a
it was the same noise. It would be on the hour, starting at 9 o'clock till dawn, every night.
Yeah, then I would say that would be more of a residual, like...
But not if her mom was alive, because residual hauntings are usually already passed on people. And it's usually on the memorial, or on the anniversary of the death. It's usually on the anniversary of the incident. That's usually your residual haunting. That's why your mom was still alive, so the spirit in the house was mimicking your mom.
So it's kind of odd that it continued. It wouldn't be residual.
The doppelganger was my mother. It was, it was not really my mother, but so doppelganger was of my mother.
Right.
My mother was sleeping in bed, but this person was walking around as if my mother. So it was going all the time, like after my mother in a way, like mimicking my mother.
Was that after the seance?
Yes, I was 17 when the doppelganger happened. The keys, they started they started pretty young. I think I was probably 12, 13. That started right away. Soon as I saw the apparition, a few days later, it started.
Don't you think that because of all the people that have passed over the years, that, I mean, of my mind, I think every place is haunted. But
I agree.
Certain places, people are more sensitive to it or they're aware of it, and that's where things will say, oh, my house is haunted, so everyone thinks that house is haunted, and people pick up on it. If spirits are hanging around someone else's house and they don't notice anything, maybe they just move next door or across the street or something.
Maybe.
Right.
I always thought that every place is haunted. It doesn't even have to be a house. It could be the woods. It could be a place.
Well, and that's what's weird, too, is so you do hear cases where someone died in a car wreck. They go home. That spirit goes home. Sometimes, though, that spirit will stay on the spot where they died. They're stuck there. Huh?
James Dean.
James Dean.
Supposedly he stayed at the corner where his car crashed.
Right.
Right, at the site.
So what's the I guess that'd be my curiosity. What's the difference? Why do some go home where some are stuck on site?
I think it's when they realize that they're actually dead.
And that's possible.
I mean, this woman killed herself in a different place, and because she moved out of the house. She was so miserable she wanted to be in the house. She went back to the house where she wanted to be happy. That's where her place was, to be happy.
For Eric's question there about James Dean, let's say that, okay, James Dean died, and let's say his spirit's still here. Well, people keep going to that spot where he crashed in his car, the little bastard. That was the name of his car.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But people keep going there. They're pouring out their emotions. They're leaving flowers. So he's drawn to that spot, maybe.
And that's possible. It's the energy.
True.
It goes right back to energy.
There is also energies that are existing in areas, and there are spirits that we consider to be a collector, a soul collector, or anything like that, and they will pull spirits into that area. So if you have a home that has a collector type spirit or a spirit of suicide in it, they can actually trap that spirit there at that house.
Oh, and those cases suck, because I can't tell you how many cases where we actually went in and there were multiple spirits that couldn't leave because there was another entity there that was keeping them enslaved. So in those cases, it was a matter of destroying the entity that was there, and the spirits willingly left because they were stuck there anyway.
Right, exactly. That's the thing that has to be done. You have to go after that one entity and remove that entity from that area.
Yeah.
Without doing that, you're going to have all that stuff continually, and it happens quite a lot of places. So.
Yeah, it does, and that's your more extreme hauntings, because you have multiple spirits that are unhappy because they're stuck there because of the one entity, and the one entity is usually your highly malevolent entity that's causing the most destruction. So you remove that one, and the rest of them go, and then the house is clean.
In that case, is the entity feeding off of the energy of the ghost that they're getting from the energy of the scaring of the people?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Plus, they're feeding off the fear of the client that is in the home because...
Okay, so it's like a double haunting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because even when you go in as an investigator and you try to investigate it, it seems like that entity will do everything to shut those other spirits up so they do not communicate. Mm-hmm. They don't want you to know that they're being blocked out. You have to directly ask it. You have to find out someone that's got a spirit that's strong enough that will say, I'm stuck here because of this or whatever. Paranormal hauntings and the times that I've spent in the last 43 years has proven one thing. You never know what you're going to run into, especially when you're doing a residential house. But the best thing you can do is study as much as you can about the property, go back as far as you can about it, because as we all know, as we walk through this world, and as old as it is, there are spotties and spirits and Indians and you name it all over the place. Mm-hmm. People die at homes, people go back to their homes, and it all depends on how their own person's reality, as we've been, there's people that you can go in and prove a pure haunting, and they would still believe that it was the house settling or something else because it's the reality that they form. Mm-hmm. And it's just like having people that have been into a house before and they say, well, this person lived here, it was haunted. This person lived here, it was haunted. This person lived here, I didn't have one bit of activity. And then the next person comes there and they have all kinds of activity, So it's quite different that way.
And I would say it's the energy the person that moved in is bringing with them, is part of it, and the sensitivity they got. And that's why paranormal protection is so important, because you don't know what, like you said, you don't know what you're walking into at all.
No. The best thing you can do is get as much information, and maybe if you're a paranormal investigator and you get to do a pre-walkthrough of a home, or go there when you ask the questions and fill out your questionnaire, where you're going to be able to work and everything else, and be able to walk through the house and get a good look at it first before you do your investigation. That pays off 110%. Or if you have someone like your guys' team did, where you could actually go astral to the house and look at it and have psychics work with that, and that's always an important part too.
Isn't there a website that you can go to find out if somebody's died at a certain address?
Yes, there is. I've got it in my resources too, but I can't remember the name of the website. But you can punch in the address of the house, and it tells you if people have died in that house.
But that's also only documented cases, and it only goes back so many years.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's 5 years. That
wouldn't help, really.
No, yeah,
and that's why real estate offices should make some kind of a law or something that you have to tell a prospective buyer that house is haunted.
Well, they do. They do have them.
Well, yeah.
They
in
have
some
them,
states. In some
it depends
states,
on the state.
But it has to be a proven death, and it has to be a proven within the house in order for them to have to disclose it.
So a lot of them don't.
A lot of them don't even know that there was a death in the house because it wasn't documented anywhere.
Well, that's the thing.
And there's a difference between grandpa something so dying in their house of old age versus someone getting murdered in their house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things that's very tough about it is how, as professionally, how we actually look at a death and how it is actually handled. You can die in your house, but you are not pronounced dead until you get to the hospital. So when you're at the hospital, they're going to say that your death certificate is going to be registered as death at that hospiel.
And that's the other thing.
Well, you guys just took out my third question. Thanks.
But Barry, that's the thing too. Is just because someone died doesn't mean there's a haunting either.
Right. Exactly.
Right, because no one died in my house that we lived in. We lived in it for 12 years. No one died in that house. And I researched it, and I asked the neighbors and everything. And this entity who was a shadow person, he just ended up in the house. Like I said, too, he wasn't there when we went in there because I could feel, a presence easily when I walk into a building. But there was nothing there until our furniture and, the truck arrived with our stuff.
That one followed you.
Yeah.
And see, the thing about that is, did you have anything that you had picked up from anywhere like Goodwill, Value Village, garage sales, anything of that nature that you could have potentially brought him to your home with you?
Right.
I don't think so. I mean, I was moving home we were moving back from college, so we didn't really we actually gave more things away. We hardly had anything to begin with, really. So it was just odd. But I think, somebody told me a theory that this thing just kind of knew I was sensitive and probably died somewhere on a road near and just came into the house. And what's funny, when I moved out of the house, I started having this constant dream that a man got killed on a motorcycle on the main road outside of that house and then went into the house after we moved out 12 years later. So I'm like, maybe that was the answer. Maybe that was it. It just knew I would see it. It knew it would be heard, so it came in the house.
So are shadow persons ghosts then, or what are shadow persons?
All right, guys. On that, I'm going to have to interrupt, and we are going to go to our first break. We will come back to that in our second hour. Great first hour. Remember to get your month of May giveaways entries in to s4radiowinner@gmail.com with your paranormal experience. Here is Cryptamnesia with Poltergeist.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
They say I'm evil, they say I'm dead inside. Check out my ego, 'cause I'm running here tonight. Just burn me like a witch and watches I catch fire, but I cannot die. I am your poltergeist.
I must have 1,000 souls trapped inside. 1,000 souls that are haunting in my eye. You keep trying to kill me, but I cannot die. You try to ignore me, but I haunt you deep inside. You keep trying to kill me, but I cannot die. You try to ignore me, but I haunt you deep inside. They say I'm evil, they say I'm dead inside. Check out my ego, 'cause I brought it here tonight. Just burn me like a witch, and watch as I catch fire. But I cannot die. I am your poltergeist, poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. I'll eat your dreams while you immerse in all of your hate. Just waste away like you're destined by your pride. I'll be alive but I'm dead to watch you die. So go ahead and take my life, I dare you to try it. You keep trying to kill me, but I cannot die. You try to ignore me, but I haunt you deep inside. You keep trying to kill me, but I cannot die. You try to ignore me, but I haunt you deep inside. They say I'm evil, they say I'm dead inside. Check out my ego, 'cause I brought it here tonight. Just burn me like a witch, and watch as I catch fire. But I cannot die. I am your poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Oh, poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Oh, you're caving in, the loss of sleep keeps you obsessing on your pride. But in the end, you let me in. They say I'm evil, they say I'm dead inside. Check out my ego, 'cause I'm wanted here tonight. Just burn me like a witch, and watch as I catch fire. But I cannot die. I am your motherfucking. They say I'm evil, they say I'm dead inside. Check out my ego, 'cause I brought it here tonight. Just burn me like a witch, and watch as I catch fire. But I cannot die. I am your poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Oh, poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist.
Welcome back to S4 with your host, Eric Cooper.
And welcome back to S4. Tonight it's the May Roundtable. I can't believe it's halfway through May already. Because I don't know, February, March, and April just lasted like a year, it felt like. But we got to give Jerry a shout out real quick. Jerry's one of our new listeners and loves the show. We always love to hear listeners that love our show because we do try to please our listeners all the time. And so, real quick, too, if you're in Forest Movement Paranormal, you will see that we have suggestions for some topics that you want to hear on the show and guests that you want to hear on the show. And we have taken your suggestions to heart. And so, yes, we will have more alien races. And we will have, and Barry, I got to ask you, I've never heard of the, what's the name of it? There's a spot in Mexico called the Zone of Silence.
Yes.
Yes.
We got it.
Yes.
So
Where?
someone says they want to hear more about the Zone of Silence. So it actually came up in Ancient Aliens today. Cool, because I've never heard that one.
I could hit you up with a bunch of information
Good.
on the Zone of Silence.
Oh, yeah, that is an awesome spot. And even in fact, the missiles have been shot up, and for some reason they are down there. They automatically have there. The magnetic forces there are fantastic and pull quite a lot. There's a lot about the Cone of Silence.
We should take the kids there. I bet you we can destroy that name in 5 seconds.
Yeah, not that, but no, they actually shot. I think it's the case you're talking about, but they shot a missile from where was it? It was supposed to land at White Sands Proving Grounds, and overshot by 700 miles and landed, and it was destroyed in the Zone of Silence.
Yes,
and so today they were talking about the Bermuda Triangle, the Zone of Silence, all these different energy points around the Earth. And so a question I'm going to ask our guest on the 31st is it possible, and has anyone ever looked at, are there any crop circles in these areas?
Well, in the Zone of Silence, there really
No.
wouldn't be.
No.
Yeah,
I was going to say, it's all desert.
Around these energy points. I guess that'd be my question because, I think personally the crop circles, and we'll be discussing this a lot more in 2 weeks, but if crop circles are resource points.
A crop circle can be made in a desert.
It can be.
Well, look at the Nazca lines in Peru.
But then they call it a sand circle.
Anyway, moving along. What were we talking about? So, Francie, you had a question about ghosts.
Shadow
people.
Shadow people. What are they? Are they ghosts or are they something else?
Depends on who you're talking to.
It depends on who you're talking to, and it depends on the signs and symptoms of what that ghost or what that shadow is doing.
What that ghost?
There you go, classifying them right away.
Yeah,
because there is a shadow
I've always,
huh?
Yeah, I was going to say I've always, I take the side of a shadow person a lot.
Right.
Because the first thing people do is they think, oh, it's black, it's bad. And they get that mental thing going. I always look at it, and we have several shadow people that run around Nottingham Hall. We have several little desks, but I always look at it as that they don't have enough energy to manifest themselves in another way, so they manifest themselves into a shadow. It doesn't actually mean bad or good. If they have more energy, they may be able to do that. But it's just one of the ways that the spirit is able to show itself. And shadow people can move very quickly. They can move very slowly. I've seen it where you can see daylight right between their legs as they're walking across the field. I don't feel threatened by a shadow person at all. They seem to appear in all kinds of different haunted locations and so forth. People have talked about laying in bed and seeing this dark, creepy thing coming over them and feeling very ominous and everything else. It all depends on how you, as yourself, is going to react to it, I think.
And the question with that, too, is, was it a shadow or was it because it was dark and it was a physical entity that was actually over you? Doesn't mean it was a shadow.
Right. Yeah, and another thing about it is that, through any time, I think there's the psychiatrist on the panel tonight, and if so, people can have very bad times and manifest their own energies that would create an entity. it actually creates its own entity, and it can be
A
very
tulpa.
dark. A tulpa, exactly. Thank you for. I couldn't think of the name of it. And it can be a very nasty little beast because of the energy that was used to create it, and it actually became its own entity. So, let's.
Tulpas could be fun, though. And you're absolutely right.
It depends. Depends on. Yeah, it depends.
Well, so I actually created one in my truck in Iraq. Before we went to Iraq, I actually created one in a Humvee. My Humvee was actually a living being, for lack of a better term. And she was an awesome truck. And my motor sergeant gave her to another platoon. I was pissed. So was she. We went to Iraq.
Yeah.
Ruh-roh.
And so my truck was on another part of the base. We were a signal unit, so you have 3 Humvees per team, and they're all node centers. They create landlines basically for telephones and internet and whatnot. So I get this call, Sergeant Cooper, your Delta 113's not starting. I'm like, you imagine that? Okay. So I went out there and I checked it out. And I climbed in, climbed in the driver's seat, and she cranked right up. Like, Well, and one of the privates came over, he's like, and he knew I was pegging, so he's like, Sergeant Cooper, is there anything I can do to keep this truck happy? I was like, redo her. That's all I gotta do. She just wants attention. Redo her. She's my truck. So this private would actually get in the truck and redo her every day. She worked just fine. But his sergeant didn't believe it. He's like, no, that's bullshit. There's no such thing as, no, this truck isn't alive. And, well, a wind came up out of nowhere and knocked a tent pole on his head. Yeah, okay. And
did you name the truck?
Christine.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Oh, of course you did.
I named her Christine. Actually, no, never mind. That was Sabrina. I named her Sabrina. The teenage witch.
Awesome. So you got Christine and Sabrina.
No. It wasn't Christine.
I named my cars. I grew up.
Actually, Christine was a truck in Germany. There was a. So, if you're familiar with what a HET is, it's HETT. It's a high equipment transport. These are semi-trucks that haul tanks around. So if you can imagine how big this vehicle is, they are enormous, and they are all electronic. So we couldn't even really work on them. We had to call civilian contractors to come fix them. So there was a truck that we did name Christine because she actually was in Bosnia and ran over some Bosnians. Well, when she came back to Germany, this truck would start up on its own for no reason. Even the contractors came. They checked all the electronics out. They did everything. Replaced everything they could. It didn't fix it. This truck would start when it wanted to. The horn would sound when it wanted to. They never did fix it. I left that unit and it was still the same. But yeah, tulpas can be good. Or tulpas, like I always compare Slenderman to the whole tulpa, because I think Slenderman is a tulpa.
Exactly, because it was a myth that was created into that, and it became its own entity. Several things. The Hat Man, shadow person,
So
same way.
What's the difference between a thought form and a tulpa, or are they the same thing under a different name?
Same thing under a different name.
Same thing.
Okay.
Same thing.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
But yeah, you have good thought forms. You have bad thought forms. Slenderman and Sabrina, for example. So let's see, Francie, what's your next question? Or first question? Francie. Is Francie still
Sorry,
here?
I had you on. I was muted.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, well, this is kind of like along what we've been talking about. Are poltergeists an entity, or because usually you hear them, affiliated with adolescent energy.
Mm-hmm.
So, which came first? Is it an entity that feeds on adolescent energy, or is it adolescent energy that creates the poltergeist, like a tulpa?
Actually, I can speak to that for my perspective. I believe that I had poltergeist activity for sure in the house that I grew up, as you can tell from what I've talked about.
Right.
Then an adolescent. So I think that the spirit has to kind of come first and latch onto the child as it did me. And then it feeds off of that energy. That's what I believe.
Okay.
I think, honestly, it can be two things. It really comes down to your investigative questionnaire. One of the questions that was in our questionnaire, anytime we had a description of telekinetic or poltergeist activity, would be, is there a preteen or an adolescent in the home? Because I do think it can be a spirit. If a spirit's manifested enough energy to actually throw things, obviously a spirit can cause poltergeist activity. As far as the preteen adolescent energy, once you teach a lot of these teens how to ground their energy, you will stop the poltergeist activity.
Is it because it's just not available to the entity then?
No.
It's actually caused by the person because of their emotional state.
It's caused by ungrounded energy because preteens are so hormonal. It's a hard one to pronounce. But there's so many hormones going on that if a teen's not grounded, their energy is just everywhere. And that can cause poltergeist activity. It has nothing to do with the spirit or entity. It has to do specifically with the preteen.
Don't you think it could be it could be both?
It could be both.
We've seen occasions when, and it doesn't even have to be a preteen. There are cases that we've had that have poltergeist activity. I've seen spirits throw stuff, stack stuff, do all kinds of bizarre stuff to, which I believe is to try to get you to get out of there. You know,
it's a fear tactic.
Yeah, most time if you're dealing with a pubescent teen and they're having emotional problems or having problems in schools and everything else, that is where you will find the most. If you have one of those in a house or in the area where that's happening, you will find that poltergeist activity will happen because it's just generated from those emotions. It can turn into a topa, though, yes, depending on if it's not taken care of. And that's where you have to address it, is like Eric was saying, and make sure that they're grounded. Once they get grounded and once they're it even keel, then all that activity ceases.
Cool.
All right, so Barry, what's your question?
Okay, so I have a follow-up question.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
It has nothing to do with what I just asked.
Okay.
On the break, we were talking, and the question was, what's with Kentucky? How come there's so much activity there?
Kentucky, the 37th parallel runs through Kentucky.
Uh-huh.
It is an extremely highly active area. It was, going back in history, even the Native Americans talked about the strangeness of it. A lot of American Indian tribes during that time did not actually like to live in it. They would come and they would hunt and they would set up their camps and do a lot of hunting. It was really popular, and it was a great hunting area. It has Mammoth Cave is in Kentucky. There is mysteries all about that, so strange crypto creatures, the Appalachian Mountains from, you come down West Virginia, the Carolinas, Tennessee, Kentucky.
The Appalachians
you've
are
got
so by
all
themselves.
kinds, right, so you've got all that coming in there. And then you also have a bizarre UFO factor. You also have a large, around it, Kentucky, you have Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. You also have Fort Campbell in South Central, down by Clarksville, Tennessee, and Guthrie, Kentucky. You also have Fort Knox, and all those areas combined, and it's just a mysterious place. We've had giants discovered here. There are mounds here in Kentucky. There is all kinds of stuff. So it's kind of like a paranormal paradise.
You have rakes.
What about the limestone?
Yes, and rapes.
Yeah.
and other strange crypto creatures.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Would you repeat that for me?
Oh, I just said, what about limestone?
Oh, limestone is very heavy in Kentucky. We do have limestone. We have a lot of underwater aquifers because of the cave systems. A lot of the rivers will run above water for a while and then duck back underneath. So it is very conducive to paranormal activity. There are some serious magnetic ley lines here. UFO-wise, we've had some very interesting cases here in Kentucky with the big one in 1955 being the Kelly, Kentucky case. And then you had the Mantell crash right outside for where I live out here in Franklin. You've had the Stanford abduction case. So very large cases. We still have tremendous amount of UFOs, and by capita, Kentucky's probably rated 6 in the country for UFO sightings. So
really,
yes, because if you take all the, you're going to see a lot in California. You're going to see a lot here because of the masses of people. But if you break that down and you look per capita, you will find that Kentucky is always in the top 10 of UFO sightings.
Huh.
Now, do you think that there's more activity in Kentucky because of the fact that there's so many coal mines in Kentucky? Like they're constantly digging the earth?
It's really strange. A lot of they do that. A lot of them have been flooded and closed off because of some of the weird things that they found. And I know that sounds very conspiratorial. The United States government also has used them. They're taking over mushroom mines down here and everything else. But the crypto... And it's what you awaken. I think that, as you go back through history and you look at some of these things that have happened through history, and you've got to remember something, that even though we're only so many years old, Columbus founded us in 1492, if you believe that. But, it's other things that could have been here. We have found, there has been old coins found here when... the missionaries came to Kentucky. People were speaking Welsh before they first got here. Tribes were speaking Welsh. There were, around the area, there was some very odd Egyptian artifacts found, which is now closed off. No one can be able to get to it. And it's been found in several different areas. So what was here? I mean, it's kind of like going... Okay, yeah, we've got Egypt over there, but was there a pre-Egypt? Where was the Aztec Indians and the Mayans originally from this area moved south and continued their trade routes in this area? Questions with that also. So,
what about the Anasazi?
Anasazi? Great question. That is a wonderful question. Unfortunately, around here, it would be more like the Algonquins, the Shawnee, the Iroquois, and then you also have the Great Cherokee influence through Kentucky and Tennessee, because the Tier of Fears goes through both Tennessee and Kentucky.
See, I want to do a show just on the Anasazi alone, because the Anasazi were out of New Mexico and disappeared.
Awesome.
I mean,
yes, totally disappeared. Yeah, totally disappeared.
Okay, I'm going to be that person because I do really weird research on really weird different things. And something that has always been in my brain and everything is that there seems to be a lot of UFO sightings around high mercury deposits. Okay? So I don't know whether they use that as a fuel source. I don't know what's up with that. But it seems to happen all over the country around large mercury deposits. And I know that in Kentucky, especially in Clay County, Kentucky, there's a huge mercury deposit. Did you notice any more activity there than in other parts?
Yes, there is a lot of activity in Clay County. There's a lot of activity in other counties close to it. Daniel Boone National Forest runs through that area, runs through the whole state all the way down to Tennessee, ending up almost by Oak Ridge. There is so much mysteries in there, and we've had so many different encounters in some of the crypto stuff that I've been on, where we do have sightings of rakes, different types of entities that are small, three-toed beings that are cave-bound. We've also had here in Kentucky extreme lot of earthquakes, which not too many people talk about. In the last year, this was 2 months ago, we've had 231 earthquakes here in Kentucky. The area that's surrounded, so things are disturbing, and we have large sinkholes in the area because of the caves. So it's, like I said, it's conducive to a paranormal mecca, if you will. And it's a great place to be an investigator, but it's funny. We our team, Nice Talkers Paranormal, runs the gambit in Tennessee, Indiana. We don't get to Ohio very much. West Virginia. I apologize, didn't get a chance to mute my mic there. But so we do get to go around that area, but it's all the same kind of influence. There's so much paranormal in the central part of this country. It's amazing.
And I know Joe's big question is, do you have a lot of pointy sticks in Kentucky?
Yeah. Yes.
They
always find bones. Yes, and they always find their way in my leg somehow.
Oh, wait, but I bet giant bones would make great pointy sticks.
Well, the giants that have been found here in Kentucky are really amazing. And you know how I feel about giants because of the fact that, they just kind of disappear. They're found, the Smithsonian, Cambridge gets involved in it, everything else. And then all of a sudden, you go to look at these things and they're totally gone. They're gone. They're dumped in the ocean, wherever they're putting them. Because it goes against the theory of, are they Nephilim? What are they? We don't ever get a chance. But
you have a lot of the mounds, like the mound builder areas.
Yes, there's mound builders.
That's where they found a lot of the giant bones, I've heard.
Right, exactly. They do find them around that way, and it comes from Ohio. There's some in Indiana. They run in every different direction, but the ones that we deal with seems to run directly from Ohio and will run all the way down to Pinson Mounds in Tennessee, outside of Jackson, Tennessee. There's also another one that comes up the other way, kind of crosses over and goes into Indiana, and goes through Tennessee, North Carolina, Tennessee, and up that way, and draws a line. So there's kind of like an X made of mounds. But the amazing thing about it is these creatures that they found are 9 to 10 feet tall. Their heads are large enough. Their jaw structure is large enough to put a human head inside their mouth, and they have 2 rows of teeth.
Now, are these the red-headed ones?
There has been several red-headed ones, but in the cave systems, and even in Mammoth Cave, have found redheaded. How would I say? Skeletons or mummified bodies because of the caves. But some of them have been even short, like 4 foot tall, and adult.
Mm-hmm.
So we have both. We have the higher ones, and we have the taller ones, and we have some of the shorter ones that have been found here. And thank you for bringing attention to Kentucky. I appreciate that very much.
Well, yeah, you've had so many TV shows based in Kentucky on the paranormal. And you're absolutely right. I love the Hodgkinsville case. I think that was awesome. Back. Yeah. The dwarf aliens. That one always fascinated me. The fact that they shot shotguns at them and they did somersaults. I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah, and like I mentioned, the first real big case right after Roswell happened in 1948 in January 7th in Franklin, and that was the Mantell case when he was chasing a UFO. It was believed to be a planet, but obviously wasn't, and it was the first documented case. It was considered to be
UFO
had a death due to a UFO. And the weird thing about it is, and this is strange about Mantell, and stop me if I'm rambling, but Mantell's case was so unusual because he was born here in Kentucky. He was military. His parents were military. He was after he was born, that next day he was taken in Louisville. He never came back to Franklin, Kentucky until he died that day, and he died in Franklin, Kentucky. He was born and died in Franklin, Kentucky. He never spent any time in Franklin, Kentucky.
Huh. That's weird.
Weren't there some anomalies with the wreckage when they found it, that it was like full of holes that they could never explain?
Oh yeah, I've done quite a lot of stuff on it. There's been a lot of case work done on it, and then just recently, I've done. We've put together quite a lot of cases. I live 3 doors down from the funeral home that originally took his body. We've done some more research in it and looked at it. It's always an interesting case to me. But I've actually interviewed 2 people that are still alive from that, that are witnesses from that case, and one of them did claim that there was, they claimed that he didn't have options, that they didn't have any gunpowder, any guns.
That's the story I heard, because of the elevation he was going at, chasing a quote-unquote planet, and he lost
the
oxygen.
Amazing thing about it is this guy was a crack ace pilot and taught how to fly. He knew everything about
experienced
flying.
Pilot.
Oh yeah,
extremely
absolutely.
experienced. And the way that the witness said that the plane it came down, and all of a sudden it looked like it almost stopped. It laid down, and for a plane to crash on its belly after going into a dive, very unusual. So it slowed down, crashed. The prop went straight into the ground, stuck up, and then the cockpit of the plane rotated to the left and lay there. He was basically liquefied. His body was liquefied, and they find that one of the witnesses claimed that there was gun shells inside the cabin, because on a P-51, as you're shooting the gun, it all comes back into the floor of the pilot.
Speaking of airplanes, I want to do a quick shout out to all the families and friends of those affected by the crash this morning in Kamloops. So you guys have the Blue Angels in the United States. In Canada, we have the Snowbirds.
Oh yeah,
one of them crashed during their cross-country trip.
Wow.
Unfortunately, one of them didn't make it. The other one's in serious condition in the hospital. To all those affected, we're here with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, most definitely.
I never even heard about that one.
So sorry. We'll say some prayers.
They were doing a really cool trip too. Like, they were zigzagging across each province, so they visited all the major towns.
Right?
It was really neat.
What?
Okay, I gotta ask. So I've been stuck on these Kentucky Giants and the Kentucky Little People. Okay. Now, we know that there's certain cultures throughout history that if someone was born with any form of deformity, they would kick them out of their tribe or out of their society. And so could this just be a whole bunch of people that got together that had been excommunicated from the tribes and stuff in the area?
And they put them all in Kentucky?
Well, we did the same thing in Australia as a penal colony to start.
Yeah. In my feelings about it, Kentucky is so weird. It has, if you want to look at the small people in Kentucky, the tall people of Kentucky, the giants of Kentucky, look at the blue people of Kentucky.
What?
Kentucky blue people.
I ain't never heard that one.
Kentucky blue people.
I've heard of Kentucky bluegrass, but
very solid. Keep very much.
Isn't that a recessive genetic condition?
Actually, anybody can turn blue. You have to drink liquid silver to do it, but if you have enough of it in your system, it turns your skin blue.
Yeah, we had a guy.
This wasn't that though. This was a genetic thing, I think.
There's been a lot of people that talk about genetics, but there's also been some that have been saying, and the UFO activity in that area is extremely. It may have something to do with that because there has been reports of whitish blue alien races.
Oh yeah, we'll get into the blue alien race when we do our alien race show.
There was a guy in
Was it Krishna blue?
Huh? Yes,
Krishna
yes, she was.
blue?
Yeah.
There was a guy in Bellingham that walked around that he was like bluer than a Smurf.
Yeah, he was bright blue.
Maybe that's where the Smurfs came from.
Hey, you know what else is cool about Kentucky? It's the only place that ever ranked. It's the only place that I know. You hear a lot about places about it raining fish and frogs and all that stuff. Here in Kentucky, it rains meat.
Well, that's a good thing because, is there a meat shortage?
Yeah.
Whoa, wait a minute. Like cloudy with a chance of meatballs meat?
Meatballs, yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was actually a case up around the Old Lake area that it actually rained meat, raw meat hanging on trees and everything else in there.
Did they figure out what kind of meat it was? Like, did it come from pig or cow or?
I'll be really truthful with you. I would be lying to you if I told you. I just know that it happened. I haven't really investigated the case, but I know it is a documented case. It's one of those things that I just go up. All the things that I get involved in, that's all I need to do is start searching.
Right, you got enough on your plate.
I tell you, that only happened once in Washington, but it's because they decided to blow up a whale.
Right.
Yeah.
So Barry,
was in Oregon.
Yes.
What's your first question tonight?
I don't know. I had some questions I sent to you, but I'm beginning to think that I've got to kind of go off of that. But I definitely want to stay in a UFO realm. First of all, I'd like to ask the panelists if they've had a UFO experience, and if they had, did they see or did they find that there was possible paranormal activity such as shadow persons, orbs, or weird electronic anomalies associated with it? And has anyone ever had an abduction experience?
So I've had 5 UFO encounters, sightings. But they're all longer range. Now, you want to talk unique experiences? So I had a chow. And I've been visited by entities on more than one occasion, alien-type entities. This one you couldn't see, but the chow did. and it was really weird because it was in Bad Windsheim, Germany, and I got a metallic taste in my mouth, and this lasted about 10 minutes. And during this point in time, I felt an energy enter the apartment, and my chow was following it around, and actually sat as if on command and stared at the ceiling. And so I've never heard another abductee. I know for a fact I've never been taken. I've never been abducted. But have you ever heard in the abductees you've talked to ever get a metallic taste in their mouth during an abduction experience?
Several times. Very, very, very popular.
Do you know what race it was?
This was just gray. Gray normal ET. That's what they described it. You know, when we get to races, there's so many different races, as you're aware. And there are different races of gray. There are different, types. So, no, I do not know what race it was, but it is a very common thing to have the metallic taste in their mouth.
It's almost like I put a penny in my mouth.
Yeah, exactly. It's also weird that your dog reaction, because a lot of people will talk about their dogs being very quiet or actually fall asleep.
This one was, Hayden was excited. He was actually excited and at his presence. And I've had a whole lot of different supposed encounters, but the person I was with is not trustworthy, so I can't go by a lot of the experiences that possibly happened because of that fact. So I only speak to the experiences that I personally witnessed or personally experienced. Other than, I've had reptilian encounters twice, and I've talked about that. I'm not going to go into those because I've talked about those on the show enough times.
I've had one, I think.
What's that?
UFO encounter. And I was driving down South Skagit.
That was here.
Yeah, you yelled at me afterwards because I didn't tell you.
Well, yeah. But absolutely, has anyone else had any UFO or alien encounters?
I have seen an object fall from the sky and not known what it was. Now, I live 45 minutes, probably less than that from Wright Pat. So there's a lot of different things that happen here and stories you hear. Basically, my husband and I were walking in our neighborhood, and basically we just started seeing this thing. It kind of looked like a comet falling from the sky, but you didn't really know what it was. And then it split off into three different, one was going straight and the other two were going basically the other ways. It's like they all split into three different ways. But it was like a pattern, and then all of a sudden it just dissipated before it hit the ground. You kind of couldn't see what happened to it, and of course it was in the newspapers and on the news that a lot of people had seen it, and then the government, of course, stepped in really fast and said that it was just like a little bit of a meteorite or something, but we never really believed that's what it was.
Right.
Yeah, I'm always surprised at how the government likes to say, yes, there's a meteor, and they'll follow this meteor on a straight line path, going from the south, going all the way north, and it always seems to go towards Ohio.
Yeah.
And it goes through all these other areas, and you see these videos of it, and it is moving on a straight line path. And until it gets to Ohio, when it decides to pitch down and dip or whatever, and you never hear of any explosions, you never hear of any type of things like that at all, and which is always kind of weird to me. So
it is. It's really strange. My husband one time he thought that maybe they shot it down or something. I'm not sure, but you had asked about phones glitching out or seeing shadow people afterwards. I did not.
Okay.
But Yeah, we always kind of wondered about that because in our neighborhood there was only like 2 other people that like neighbors who had seen it. So I thought it was kind of funny because it really lit up the whole neighborhood, and it was right over 75. I-75, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting to me too. Yeah.
Yeah, if you kind of look in Ohio, a lot of things are near the highway, and they're right usually off 75.
Yeah, off 75, off 71, 77. You know, they're all in there. I lived in Ohio for several years.
Oh, okay.
And my UFO experience in '64 was in Massillon, Ohio, and I was actually, because of my own stupidity, I was taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Oh, I gotta give a real quick shout out. Markham, our scientist, in the chat room. I haven't seen him. He's been up and down and having some health issues and whatnot. So get well, Markham, and awesome to see you in the chat.
You know, I don't know, honestly, if I've ever had any UFO encounters or anything to do with UFOs. I can't tell you that I've seen one, because not to my knowing have I. I do have a lot of missing time from a lot of different time points in my life, but I don't know.
If you were abducted, though, it was by a different race each time, because they had you for about 5 minutes and said, no, we can't do this crap.
So
anyone that wants to be a rake, I gotta agree.
So how many abductees do we know of that have been kicked out? Have you ever heard of cases? I've read case reports before where the one guy that somehow got his control back and actually punched a gray on the ship, and they kicked him out and returned him back to his university campus. But have you ever heard of cases where the abductee was returned?
Only in multiple abductions cases. Say if there's more than 1 or 2 people in a car, or if they're at an area and they abduct a group, then I've heard of them all returning, but they have no ill effects from it, nothing else from it, while there may be 1 or 2 people that may have had something to do with it. And we find that a lot of times it's related to their RH factor or their blood being RH negative. So, the reason why I asked about the paranormal activity, there are so many places that you go. A lot of the abductees talk about having paranormal experiences after having a close encounter with a UFO or having an abduction, because that energy or that veil's lifted, and it seems like other things seem to happen around the house where light bulbs blow out continually, and electronic problems. They walk by TVs, they should turn off and on. They see shadow figures, as I said, weird lights, speckled lights in their homes. And then sometimes when we go into a home, there's been several cases when we're doing our review, and what we believe may be a haunting may actually turn into a abduction scenario, and they're not even aware of it. And you have to handle that with very kid gloves.
Absolutely. And I've seen the little speckled lights in another apartment I was in that you're talking about. They look like little tiny dots of light, like thousands of them around the ceiling, correct?
Right, and they're always different colors. They're always, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen them as well. So,
I just had a man yesterday who said that he had he was driving down this road and he had 45 minutes of missing time. It seems to be the thing I hear a lot from people.
Missing time is a huge abduction sign. Yeah, and like Barry was saying, it really sucks when you're talking to a prospective client that's having paranormal activity, and they fit all the patterns of abduction, and you have to be the one to break it to them.
Right.
That's probably one of the crappiest things to do.
Yeah, it is. You know, it's funny because, and the other crappy thing about it is being an investigator, and this happened to me a year ago on an abduction case, and you know the case. I hate to keep on bringing it up all the time. Where I was actually with him, and we had an incident where we lost an hour and 10 minutes of time coming back from a location that left us both disoriented, holes in our arms, and bloody. So later on, bleeding from the nostrils. So.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Not fun when that happens.
No, absolutely not. So Cole,
Yo,
you have a question?
Yeah. Do you guys think there's a correlation between solar flares and UFO sightings? Like during the time of us having a major solar flare event, do we also have an increase in UFO sightings or hell, let's expand that. Let's go any paranormal events.
With solar flares?
Yes.
You want to take that, Barry? Because I've never looked at the correlation, so I can't really answer that one.
Way to go.
Well, it's funny, you know, right now we're actually, we're in a very slow part of solar activity with the sun. And so, but we are having heavy experiences, you know. So I would have to go with, it has, it doesn't play any major part of it. I kind of look at the way that it is about, as you do this for a long time, you'll be able to tell the areas that are going to be affected because of the fact that it's like there is, you know, we talked about a portal or we talked about a way, you know, when we send up, back in the old days when we would send up a rocket, you know, there was a window of time that we had to be able to shoot that window and open that, hit that window in space so we could use that window to come in and out of. I believe it's the same thing with UFOs. There's a certain area that they will hit, and then there's they may be on the West Coast, and then the next time that window opens, and they may be in the Northeast, and then you'll see them coming to the Midwest, and then you'll see them in Florida. It seems like Florida is more open all the time for some darn reason. I don't know why, but yeah, but I don't see. You know, there could be a correlation, but. You know, when you have heavy magnetic anomalies that can be brought by that kind of activity in EMF, we see more spikes in paranormal activity than you do with the UFO activity.
To me, it seems like you would see less UFO activity just because a major solar flare would cause almost an EMP-like factor.
Unless they use it for fuel.
Ooh.
Yeah, I thought that.
Oh, yeah, there's a ooh.
Well, you know, like, okay, so your solar calendar, you're on a 11-year before it twists from side to side, so it changes every 11 years.
Yes.
So in that period of time during the change, so once every, 11 years, you could have the potential for a large solar flare. Not saying that you're going to have one, but you have the potential for a large one.
They can't be using it for fuel.
The last one was in 1859 that actually knocked out all of the electrical components all over the place.
So here's another thought with that, though. So maybe they're not using it for fuel, but what if the solar flares are actually a part of the factor of opening up the portals? The energy factor of it.
It could be, but I still think that, like right now, during a silent period of it, and we are going into that 11-year-old cycle coming up here quickly, or a more heavy cycle of corona discharge from the sun. But you know, you're going to see anytime with EMF and anytime that it creates heavy EMF, you're going to see increased activity no matter what it is. You know, in my eyes, especially as I said, you know, we talk about Bigfoot, UFOs, it's all falls in the paranormal. It's all underneath the same thing. You know, I believe that you have to study it all because it's all interrelated. But paranormal activity is so key to, as far as ghost activity, to high EMF spikes. It's it just drives them nuts. Electrical storms, any type of thing like that. And if you're having an electric storm outside, you're going to have a great hunt if you're standing somewhere close to
right.
that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, if they were using it for fuel, Henry Ford would have had him taken out already.
That's true. Never mind.
Well, you know, and you know that they're using a magnetic. It's almost been proven from some of the things that it is, that it's almost a magnetic force of that they're using to be able to propel that. So, which leaves a discharge around the craft that allows it to be able to take the punishment and less G-force than our planes could, because they're always comparing it. Our planes can't do that. You know, how do they do that? But it's the generation of the force field around the craft that's coming from the electromagnetic fields.
Well, and do you think that? Go ahead.
Sorry, is that with the earthquakes? I mean, I hear that usually before earthquakes, there's sightings right before the earthquake, and then after the earthquake, they're gone. And you were saying using stuff for energy.
Yes. Earthquake is known for that. Volcanoes are known for that. Any natural disaster.
Volcanoes are focal points for them.
Right. And the same thing with natural disasters. If there is a natural disaster, how many times do you see a UFO being caught at a natural disaster? There'll be a picture somewhere, you know.
You can bring that up with combat zones as well.
Exactly. And back in the time period from 73 through 75, every SAC base in the United States saw some kind of activity because of the activity we had with our nuclear warheads.
Oh yeah, multiple cases, multiple times. Nuclear power facilities, missile silos, all seen activity.
Oh yeah.
UFOs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, we are going to our second break. When we come back, Joe, you're back in the chute.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here is Cryptamnesia with Hell Within.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
host, Eric Cooper.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for the third hour of S4 tonight. Tonight's our roundtable. We have with us Barry Gaunt, Rosella C, Rowe, Francie Miller, and Joe Allgeier. So, let's start off with our month of May giveaways for this hour. So we've got quite a few good stories. We'll get them all to you over the next few weeks. But for tonight, we're going to read one from Jefferson. It was a tradition in my family for all the guys to get together once a year for a hunting trip. We would all jump in the back of my grandpa's old Ford and head way up into the mountains, set up camp, and stay for a week. Nothing but my grandfather, father, uncle, and 3 cousins. So it was on day 3 of our trip when it happened. We had just gotten back to camp, tired from the day. So my cousins and I went to go gather up firewood, and my grandfather, uncle, and father started getting dinner out to cook up. My cousin Tom's voice rang out in a horrified scream. We took off toward him and ran smack into him. "Run, just run," he screamed. A smell of wet dog and rotting meat met my nose. Then I saw it about 10 feet behind Tom. Nope, that ain't right. Matted hair and about 9 feet tall. It let out a yell like nothing I have ever heard before or ever have after. We all started running for the truck. Jumped in and took off as fast as my father could drive. We drove all the way back to my house and never went back for any of our camping gear. That was the last annual hunting trip we went on, and no one can explain what we saw to this day.
I want to go back to get his hunting gear.
I want to know where they were. Like that's an awesome story. Like that's a good experience there.
It is.
Friend,
I want to go back and give Bigfoot some coffee. It's not like a Bigfoot experience to me. Just go by the smell and the description.
Well, I mean, it could be Bigfoot, but with that description, it could also be like Dogman.
Yeah, it could be. But Bigfoot's been described as smelling like a wet dog and worse.
That's why I'd like to know what area of the world that was in.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Jefferson, for your story.
Outstanding.
That's awesome. If you can, get back to us with a location so we can go up there and check it out.
We'll go and check it out.
Friend. All right, we've got 5 names on the wheel, so here we go.
Who won?
All right, Jefferson won. So Jefferson is our winner, and we will get a prize out to him as soon as I get his address from him. Thank you all for entering, and remember, get more entries in there for next week. Next week, everyone's name goes back in the hat, and we are drawing for the big prize.
No, that's the end of the month, isn't it?
Isn't next week the end of the month?
No, we have one more week.
No.
No.
Nope.
It's the third week.
No, next week is the 24th.
Holy crap, we got the 31st. We got 2 more weeks.
We have 2 more weeks. Next week is
all right.
Next week is Memorial Day weekend. It's a Memorial Day show, and then we have...
That's right. So, yeah, next week we will have one more of these things. Still get your entries in, and then on the 31st we will be drawing for the big prize.
And the 31st we have Dr. Simeon Hines coming on to talk crop circles and the alien connection.
That's right.
Nice.
So, yeah, there's 2 more weeks of so, yeah, 2 more weeks to get your entries in.
All right.
All right, so Joe, you wanted to answer, you had a story to share with Barry's question. Huh?
Hold on, Joe. Start again for me.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that, everyone. Unfortunately, Joe was muted, so he was going to start that again.
Well, I'm not sure where I started before, but let's just say a couple months ago, sitting outside here at night, heard a low rumble, felt it more than heard it, walked out into the driveway and looked to the north. And I saw a row of lights coming. I was thinking, okay, here comes a plane. This one's pretty big. And I'm watching the sky all the time, and this is not a normal flight pattern, and he's really low. And I'm watching it, and I pull my camera out, and I'm thinking, well, I got to take a picture of this thing because it's going to come directly over me. And I keep watching and watching, and I keep trying to take a picture. The camera's not working. It's my camera. It's the phone on my camera, and I'm trying. This thing has always worked. It's getting closer and closer, and I suddenly realized this guy's going to crash. He's going way too slow. He's way too low. I'm going to see some kind of huge aircraft crash into the mountains up here. He's coming over lower, and then I'm trying to get the camera to work. I'm trying to get a photo of this thing. I'm watching it, and as it gets closer and closer, this thing finally ends up over the top of me, and I thought it was an airplane at this point. And then I realized it's going way too slow. There's not enough noise. Even though you can feel it, you could barely hear it. And as it gets over me, I'm looking straight up, and I'm used to seeing, lights on the left, lights on the right wing, maybe a light right in the front. This thing has maybe 12, 15 lights underneath it, and it's shaped like an arrowhead. And it floats over so low, it's almost, if I had a bow and arrow, I could have fired it up and hit the thing. Pitch black night, I couldn't see any structure, it was just lights, but there were maybe 15 lights, all kinds of lights. There was blue, there was red, there was white, there was yellow, there was all these different lights. As it goes over the top of me, I had to look left and right to see it. It was huge. And nothing that big can stay in the sky going that slow. I'm still trying to take pictures of it.
Good.
It continues on to the south. It just barely passes over the ridge to my south, and it goes out of sight finally. And then the camera started working. So there you go with your question about have you ever seen anything that had electronic interference? There's your electronic interference.
Yes, and it's happened numerous times, and thank you for that story because I've got some questions for it because actually I've actually been witness to a craft like that, and the same thing happened to me. An anomaly that happened was that the camera does not function at all, and we've had that at several different locations when we have sky watches or anything like that. That you will see a craft and you'll pull your camera out and the dang thing doesn't work. And actually, we have it even in paranormal cases where you may go into a haunted area and you go in, it doesn't work, you pull yourself back out, and then the next thing you know, your camera starts working.
Yeah,
exactly. I was thinking, if you're going to go on a paranormal investigation, or if you're out looking for something to happen, you should have an old film camera, like an old Canon A1, that has no electronics in it.
Right. Exactly.
That would be the way to go because, this thing, it takes great photos. I'm real close to Beale Air Force Base. I'm seeing U-2s. I see the SR-71 is pretty rare, only every couple of years. I see the U-2 a couple times a week. We've got fires. There are Borate bombers going over all the time, and fires are real scary here. And so if there's something going on in the sky, I'm paying attention.
Right.
I'm thinking there's a fire somewhere. And I take photos of everything. And this is the only time it didn't work.
Did you realize, or did you notice, a lot of times when that same activity happens during a craft does that, there's always like what they call a rolling blackout. I've seen it in some of the cases where the lights will flicker or the power will go off and back on real fast. And it doesn't even shut your computer off or anything else. It will just flicker back and off.
Well, on something like that, I wasn't sure when this exactly happened about the power off because I sit outside at night, and it's pitch black out here. I'm in the woods. That's why I like it. I can see the sky. I can see the critters coming through the woods and stuff. So I wouldn't have known if there was a power outage. There's no lights around here.
Yeah. One of the things was I've got to ask you, the one that I saw was he made a weird noise.
It was.
I thought it was like almost like a, kind of.
Yeah, it was kind of like the noise was like that. It was a low rumble. I mean, I'm used to the aircraft going over. This thing would have been blaring if it had been an aircraft of any kind.
Yeah.
And the sound wasn't as loud as, you could almost feel it in your chest.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing. And I hate to use the analogy, but the shape of this thing, like I said, an arrowhead, the old Star Wars, the Star Destroyer ships, they were that weird triangle shape. It was like that.
Yeah.
That's the way the lights lit up.
Yeah. My question was the one that I saw, and I'm trying to compare it, see if it was a similar type of thing. It had multi-lights, but it seemed like to be in the center of the craft, and it almost seemed, when I looked at the lighting pattern of it, you could almost see like a translucent type of glare to it. I don't know if it's that way or not, but what did it seem to be? Were they on the outside edges of it, or did it seem like it ran down or was it concentrated in the middle of the craft?
When it was coming toward me, I saw the lights at the front. That's why I thought it was a regular aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
But when it got over me, that's the part that kind of stunned me it was like a Christmas tree. They were all over underneath.
Yeah.
They weren't just on the edges. They were through the middle, and it was the amount of different colors which kind of baffled me. It took me a couple of seconds. My mind wasn't working. I'm like, this isn't an aircraft. This is something else.
Yeah.
And the shape of it, I expected to go over and you can see lights in the front along the fuselage, maybe along the wings. These lights kind of filled in the whole triangle area.
How did the
it was a really narrow, pointed triangle.
Yeah. When you're in the woods like that and you're out like that, did you notice a quiet just come over everything when it happened?
I really wasn't paying attention, but that does happen up here a lot.
Okay, just like a deadening of everything. The crickets, everything stops.
Yeah, the crickets, the frogs, everything stops, and that's usually when the hairs in the back of my neck stand up, and there's other things in the woods that are on the ground that aren't flying around in the sky up here too.
Right, exactly. It does the same thing too. It does.
Yeah.
Man, thanks for sharing that. That's a fantastic story, and I appreciate it.
About the everything going quiet. I've had a couple times. You can hear the frogs and the crickets, and they're going all the time, so you don't really pay too much attention to it.
Yeah.
But when it stops, boom, that's when you notice it, and you kind of get this eerie feeling. And a couple months ago, sitting out here, and everything went quiet, and I'm like, okay, here we go again. I think, it could be a bear, it could be a cougar. We have them all over up here. We got coyotes, but then...
No, it's Bigfoot.
I heard an owl. But this owl had to have been about 800 pounds. It was huge. I heard hoot. And that was off to my right, down the canyon. And then I heard one off to my left, up behind my barn. It hooted back. And then there was one straight out, and it didn't sound like it was more than 50 yards out there. And there was 3 or 4 of them, big, giant, 800-pound owls, hooting at each other, and they kind of moved through the area. You can hear them.
Yeah.
So my best guess is probably Bigfoot or something. It definitely wasn't owls.
Yeah, Joe, a lot of times in Kentucky and other places that I've been waiting for Bigfoot and anything else, their call range is so phenomenal. They use a coyote call, they use an owl call, they use all those things, but their owl call is very, Yeah.
It's like, well, that's a giant owl. I hope it doesn't carry me off.
Right.
Actually, I heard one time down the canyon, there's a place about a mile away that they have some steers, some longhorn steers, and you hear them once in a while.
Uh-huh.
And when they'll go off, they'll echo up the canyon. I'm up at the top of a hill near where the canyon meets, and it'll echo up. You can hear that.
Yeah.
I sat and listened to that one night. You hear this big Texas longhorn, and it echoes off the walls. But then I heard something up behind my barn made the same noise back, except it didn't echo. And there's no cows up in that direction.
Yeah.
And then I'd hear the cow down the canyon. It would come up. You could hear an echo to it. And then there was something, it was fairly close, maybe 100 yards out in the woods. It sounded like it could have been further away, could have been closer. But it was making the same noise, but there was no echo to it, and I know there's no cows up that direction.
Yeah. Makes you think, doesn't it? I mean, automatically. And
oh yeah.
They weren't owls. Those were pterodactyls.
Hey, don't talk about pterodactyls. Don't even talk about that.
Oh man.
I laid on the ground. Yeah, we won't go there.
Well, I don't have pterodactyls, but I do have the California condors. They're over the house every day. They got 6 to 7 foot wingspans.
Oh yeah, they're massive.
Giant.
Yeah, they're cool to watch too. They're just super.
All right, so I'm going to ask a question now. So in the 1950s through the 70s, airline pilots and the attitude in general was it was acceptable to report UFO encounters. But today, pilots are threatened with losing their jobs. And now we have the Navy coming out with UFO photographs and whatnot. So what's changed?
I think what's changed is the internet has had a lot of people informing millions of people that they don't know, and they're not reading it in a newspaper or watching TV. They're seeing it on their phones or their computers. The stories are getting out there more. Somebody's got to address it.
Yeah, it's like what's changed was kind of like that thing that you believed in the government at a certain age in the 50s, and you would take anything under consideration. But we had different types of things. We had a shoot down order in the early
51,
goings,
52.
right? Which automatically was immediately dislodged. Supposedly, we have a shoot down order now. Heard rumors that they're manning lasers. It's not confirmed yet, but to use lasers on F-17s and 18s. But it's kind of I look at it and go, look at the stuff that happened in the early 2000s. The FAA put out things for pilots and anything else. If you had a sighting, that you reported it to BASS or Bigelow Industries, So, and that was kind of like everything went from FOIA stuff where you could get the FOIs, Freedom of Information Acts, available to now everything went to you can't, and they always put it in individual companies' hands because you cannot get a FOIA out of a company.
So they privatized it for the simple fact it's easier to cover up.
Right, exactly.
Well, the timeline is easy to see. You had the first airline or first pilot that came out big time was Kenneth Arnold up there in Washington, where Eric is.
Yeah, and he never got ridiculed.
Timeline, he got ridiculed, but in that timeline, people saying, "Oh, well, I guess we could talk about what we saw."
Right.
And like Barry brought up, 51, 52, that was the middle of the Korean War, and we had a shoot-down order.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, there were more pilots, military aircraft, lost over the United States than in Korea.
True.
Now, that's a weird statistic.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, they say, okay, we got to clamp down on this, and you didn't hear about it for years. Anybody that came out with someone, they were highly ridiculed.
Mm-hmm.
But with the internet and with everything else going on, there's more ways of people getting information out, and they can't hide it as much as they did before.
Right.
Yeah, and you still have the type of situations that are going on where, nowadays you hear of plane crashes, military plane crashes and everything else, and they're always on some kind of mission or something like that. They never go into it too much. And so was it caused by something they were chasing? They're not going to tell you. They're just going to make it out to say, oh, we had an accident. And now
it's pilot error.
Yeah, pilot error or whatever. And there you go. And it's the same thing that was done in the 50s. Even though that it was happening and being seen so much that's they just covered it up in that manner. The Mantell case, there was a lot of different during that time. And there was a lot of plane crashes, and they would go look at another plane crash immediately. I think there was I can't remember what it was, but they were very interested in P-51 crashes to see what they looked like after they hit. And if you saw some of the pictures of a P-51 crash that hit the ground, none of them look anything like the Mantell case.
Right. Okay.
I think back then, too, that everybody was so scared of Russia at that point. And the whole Cold War thing that was going on and the space race and everything else that was going on at that time, it was easier to explain off different types of aircraft and stuff than it is now.
Blame Russia.
Yeah. Oh, well, it must be some new spy something that they're sending over.
I think also the attitude has changed completely across the world.
Yeah.
That was a time of, manual labor.
Right.
Over time, everything's become automated, and our jobs more require us to look at things rather than working on things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying with everybody, but
with a lot of industries.
With a lot of industries, the mentality has changed. Therefore, you're able to talk about it more.
Do you think that movies have played a role in that as far as educating and opening people's minds?
Absolutely.
Spielberg.
Well, you look at Close Encounters of the Third Kind, for example. That was I mean, so I'm not even going to go back as far as Orson Welles or War of the Worlds and whatnot, but look at, I think Close Encounter of the Third Kind was a perfect opening of the mind.
It was one of the first openings of the mind where they weren't just here to kill us.
No.
You think about all the movies from the 50s where they were just straight up
here to take over.
It was
the world.
invasion.
Yeah. And it went back to that
Eric,
with,
that's wrong. They weren't here just to take over the world. They were here to take our women also.
That's
right.
Godzilla!
And Kong.
And Kong.
Kong took our women.
And women are from Mars.
No. They're from Venus.
Other way
You
around.
need to read that book.
No, it's Mars Attacks is what I'm thinking of.
Really? From Mars Attacks, you get women are from Mars?
Yeah.
Wow.
I still need to see Hitchhiker Guide to the Galaxy. But
You have to.
Kayla,
What?
without the makeup, is that what you really look like?
Oh, God.
That's scary.
You don't want to know.
But no, absolutely.
Did you guys hear...
The other one that came out a few years ago that I do like is not Awakening, Contact, where they actually show aliens and show drawing symbols.
Oh, that's the weird poof writing.
No, that's Awakening.
Is it? No,
No, it isn't. It's Contact.
No, it's Contact. No, it's not Contact.
No, Contact. When you said it came out a few years ago,
yeah,
I'm thinking you had some missed time there.
No, I'm trying to remember that. Because there are two of them. One had Charlie Sheen.
Arrival.
The Arrival.
Yeah, there was two of them.
There's The Arrival and there's Arrival.
There you go. So yeah, Mark. Yeah, that's it, Markham. So Arrival, and it showed a perfect example of what we would do. We shot down their craft when they were actually here for peaceful means.
Weren't they here to warn us in that one?
Francie, what were you about to say?
it's just a little segue kind of thing. Did you guys hear that there was a big earthquake around Area 51 on Friday evening?
Yeah, it was about 80 miles northwest of Area 51. And then
do you think it was an earthquake?
No, that was the
what it looks like. All
the
the aftermath of it. That whole day afterwards, there was 4.5s and everything else. I looked at it. It was it starts with a T, Topeka or something like that, Nevada, and it's actually
Tonopah.
Tonopah. Thank you, Joe. And it's actually 80 to 100 miles north west of the Area 51 complex. But
that's a very seismic area. I used to live down there. In fact, I live right on the edge of China Lake Naval Weapons Center, a place called Lancha. And I was a geologist out there, and that whole area that they call it the Long Valley, it runs from Mojave up to Reno, and it's very seismically active. There's a lot of earthquakes out there. But then again, I worked at China Lake, and there's a lot of strange things going on out there, The Air Force has Area 51, but the Navy has China Lake.
Yep.
Right, exactly.
Nobody talks about it.
About China Lake, yeah, you're right.
So, but what would an earthquake do to underground facilities?
Well, it depends how they're built. I think most of them are built for that.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And depending on how deep the earthquake is, and depending on how it is, we have shallow earthquakes, and we have deeper earthquakes.
Like Cheyenne Mountain, that's a hollowed out mountain in there, but the actual facilities are buildings that are built on giant springs and shock absorbers. In case of any kind of, whether it's an earthquake or a nuclear explosion. They planned for it.
Yeah, they got to be used to it.
And and I want to find a guest because Philip Schneider's stories always intrigued the hell out of me.
Me too.
Yeah,
that goes back to the Dulce Wars. So I just got the Dulce papers today. I have to read them. I don't read too often. I like videos better, but I want to find somebody to talk about Philip Schneider because there's a prime example of how they tested for building underground bases.
Oh, yeah. He was the one that actually I believe he held the patent on the earth-eating machine that would make the tunnels. He was involved in that.
Right. And he's the one who got shot by the Greys, or by whatever race. I can't remember if it was the Greys or what race it was. But his story is he was there to test the rock material to figure out what sort of blasting what kind of material he needed to blast into rock to create underground bases. And when he went to Dulce under his contract, he stumbled into a cavern that was already built that was full of aliens.
Ooh.
Yeah, he was actually taken down in an elevator.
Yeah.
That went down below this area with Black Beret, which is unusual also.
It was Delta Force.
Yeah, and I believe the body count was like 62 or 63.
63.
Yeah. They came out of that.
There was him and one other living witness that was moved to Canada.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting how he said that that they do die, and he was shooting them, and they were dying. But at the same time, the way that the gentleman what he got hit with was how the guy rubbed his chest in this beam or some kind of thing. Yeah,
it was like an energy weapon.
Exactly. And
he lost some of his fingers in that firefight, didn't he?
Yeah,
I believe he lost 2 fingers, if I remember right.
2 fingers and some toes, and he was split open. Also, his chest was split open.
And and when they found him, because he was killed, and they tried to rule it a suicide, but they found catheter tubing wrapped around his neck. You don't die by a catheter tubing wrapped around your neck.
That was an unusual story. It was he was tied to a bedpost, and he used a wheelchair at the time, and he slipped off the bed and was hung by a catheter tube from the bed to the floor. Very unusual type of hanging, and I believe that he's the only person that has a death certificate that is known as a murder/suicide.
Yeah, that sounds like one of those Final Destination deaths.
Right.
He was warned. He had numerous attempts on his life. He made it through, I believe it was 15 lectures before they finally killed him, because they warned him not to talk about it.
Well, he talked about the Philadelphia experiment. He talked about Ali Bialik with that, and he also, his father was involved with that, and I can't remember the name of the alien that was in D.C. working in the Congress or some way. I can't remember the name of it at this moment.
Wasn't that Radiant Thor?
Yes, that is. That was his name, Radiant Thor. Correct, exactly.
And there's actually pictures of. I'm trying to remember. I believe it was a naval unit that they have, and there's a picture of Radiant Thor in that picture. But he doesn't look like an alien.
I'm Sean Edwards. Each Saturday night,
he looked human.
Yeah, and there's actually even a backstory to that, where Radiant Thor actually entertains certain people at his home, and they talk about it and goes farther into it. So,
the alien's name was Radiant Thor?
Yes.
Isn't that like a dead giveaway? Why would you make your name so...
Well, I'm sure he didn't name himself. The U.S. government named him. But he works in the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Now, it's kind of hard to find verification. Have you found verification of that story, Barry?
All I have found is the stuff that's from all the way through his death and everything else, what his wife wrote and all that other different stuff. I studied it for a long time, but I haven't looked at it. During one point of my career, I was all over him and Bill Cooper. You know, those two were big. I actually got to see him once at a conference. I heard him speak, and I've also heard Bill Cooper speak. And in fact, he was the first, when I saw Bill Cooper, it was the first time that I realized that I had a BB in the back of my head, because during that speech he says, reach back and feel behind your right ear, see if you have something. I went, oh shit. So, yeah.
Okay, Rosella, you're being quiet over there.
Yeah.
What's your next question?
My next question actually has to do with manifestations. Do you think that spirits choose how they manifest? We were kind of talking about that before with shadow people, apparitions, that kind of thing.
Interesting question. And I'm sorry I'm talking so much, but it's just great questions. You know, it's just great questions. But it's really funny when we look at a spirit, and some of the things that I think that is proven is if you live a life that is a long life, you have the ability to manifest yourself at any age. And just like we do in our own lives, even though that I consider myself an old man in age-wise, but my mind and what I perceive myself is about 34 years old. Mm-hmm. So if I was going to come back as anything, I'd manifest myself as me at a 34-year-old, you know.
Don't feel bad. I'm 18.
Yeah, so, you know, it's kind of that kind of thing. And also manifestation is, you know, that gets into the conscious mind also, because when you start dealing with that, manifestation is such a wonderful, wonderful thing that we have the ability to do that most humans don't even look at. So,
So what do you think that people, like shadow people, want to be shadow people?
No, I think shadow people, as I mentioned earlier, are kind of the part where they don't have enough energy or enough essence to be able to become something else. They just don't have that energy. So they are more of a lower scale when they appear. You know, there are entities that have that store up amounts of large energy, which can move. It takes a lot of energy just to move a candle or a piece of paper. I've actually seen entities that have picked up tables and that weigh 300 pounds and drop them on the floor. You know, those are special types of entities. You know, there are, and it's kind of like going, how seasoned are they and how much do they work with it? You know,
well, you got to understand too, and that's why in my kit I have a digital dual reading thermometer, because a lot of times you can tell when something's going to manifest by a fluctuation of temperature.
Right.
I think it has to do with the intentions of the spirit as well, or the entity.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, if their entire purpose was there to scare you, then they're going to manifest as something that you're frightened of.
What do you think do you think it's a reason to hide? Like, I become a shadow person so you can't really see who I am?
I don't think so. But I have a very different take on shadow people than most people do. So I honestly believe that it's more of a spy than anything else.
Most shadows are spies. 10%.
Well, you know,
I won't say most, but a lot. I think a lot of them are.
You know, even when you're talking, that would be following the lines of like a remote viewer or something like that, leaving an essence that could be a shadow figure. And yes, there are. I do believe it. I don't believe that they are. You know, maybe 20% of those may be that. You know, depending on who you are and why they're looking at you.
Yeah, see, now that's what I've always thought of as shadow people, is somebody that's doing more of an astral projection and having enough...
Astral projection doesn't cause a shadow. We know that because most of our cases where we had the astral team in, there was no shadow, and we've actually tested that theory. Animals, however, can pick up on the astral. Because we've had animals, we've had pets, cats and dogs follow the team around. Real quick, though, I've got a question from Markham in the chat room. Do these lower energy entities hang out at super colliders to get some energy, or nuclear power stations, coal-fired electrical power plants, things of that nature?
Well, I can answer on the super colliders thing. If they have been hanging out there since 2018, they haven't gotten anything. It hasn't ran since 2018. The CERN super collider will not run until 2021.
Right.
Because of social distancing.
No. They actually stopped running it because they're setting up for a new experiment that they're doing. I've been watching that because I feel like there is a correlation between the times that they run that for their bigger experiments and our natural disasters.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
It ran right before Katrina. It ran right before the Japan earthquake.
Oh, hell.
The Japan earthquake actually had happened 5 minutes after they shut it off.
Huh.
Whoa.
So we're going to have the Cascadia Subduction Zone go off in 2021.
Wow. let's not think that. Hey, let's have that natural disaster.
The thing is, you can't...
And all of us out here on the West Coast are covered in that Fukushima radiation right now.
You can't run something like that.
We're covered in it.
That much energy around and not expel it somewhere.
No, absolutely.
And all they're doing with it is their website says itself, they have large tubes built into the earth that they are expelling it down into the earth.
Oh, ain't that smart? That's just so smart. And yeah, the radiation, didn't the radiation was shown to go all the way to Colorado?
From Fukushima?
Yeah.
Farther than that.
It hasn't stopped. It's around the world.
It's still going.
It's moved.
Great.
All through.
Can you imagine? Say with Chernobyl, the creatures that are going to come out of that.
Oh, they've already got stuff out here on the West Coast. They're finding crabs down here in the San Francisco Bay that have like 10 legs and 5 eyes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, I'm not eating it.
That's fine.
Maybe that's where Honey Boo Boo came from.
And with CERN, the important thing about it is that there have been colliders built for different reasons. Even in the United States, there's colliders, and there's others in other places. So it doesn't mean that they're all malfunctioning or not functioning at the time. They're doing other experiments in each one of these facilities because they have done it. They even put one in the Northeast not too long ago. But I think that they scare themselves. I mean, the last reports that I heard of why the thing was shut down, and it's crazy. I've never been able to confirm it, anything else, but some of the things that were said by people that were in CERN, I was reading it. I don't know if you caught that, Cole, or not, if you've looked into that. But, man, it's just crazy stuff. Crazy.
I've always been a strong believer in the fact that just because you're capable of doing something does not mean you should act on everything you are capable of.
You can't tell me what to do. You're not my real mom.
I would hope not.
Oh, and so J-Ron wants to know if we do an after show. No, we do not. Maybe one day in the future we will when we get better equipment for the studio and whatnot. But right now, no, we don't do an after show.
Hey man, I am just happy that it's not at midnight anymore.
Yeah, right. And that's why we moved it from 7 to 10.
What's that? I just heard Barry say he wanted to go till midnight.
We're not moving to a 5-hour show. No, sorry.
God.
We are going to midnight central in the central time right now, and Eastern we're going to 1 o'clock.
It's 12:46 here.
Right.
9:46.
Yeah, it would have been 3 o'clock when we would have ended our show for you, Rosella.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Oh God.
This is much better.
No, Izzy, we're not going to midnight.
All right, we're at the last 15 minutes.
Well, what do you guys think about time slips? Like, do you guys think that, like, when people walk into time slips, and do you believe those people and the things that they see? Like, they go and see a historic moment or something?
I believe in that, yes. I've had some experiences with that, and I've also had several other people talk about it. With me on one time that I was on a ride with a person. We were going over to a friend's house, and I looked at this building on this road out there, and it was sitting way back, and it was a big white house and all these trees and everything else, and I looked at it and I went, man, I've never seen that place before. Wouldn't that be a great place to see if we can investigate that? That place looks awesome. And we went to this guy's house, and we were there for about an hour and a half. Came back. I said, I want to stop by that and see if we'll get pictures of it and try to learn more about it. And I drove up and down that road for 3 times for about 35 minutes looking for that place, and I never saw it again. And it's still not there.
Wow.
And then I've had people actually contact me and say that they have been in a city driving in their hometown, and the next thing that they know, everything else is different. Same thing with people who have said that, look, I've walked by this house and drove by this house for 5 years, and I'm walking by the house, and the next thing you know, the house, instead of it being blue, it's now white. The guy's down in the yard, he says, oh, you painted your house. And the guy says, no, man, this house has been white for the last 10 years.
Well, that's weird.
So, yeah.
That's a time slip.
Yeah, people have seen burning buildings that are not there in fields and everything else. So, yeah, it is. And it's even to the point of like a glitch in the Matrix where they have been sitting at a stoplight and see a bird stop in flight, and then continue, and then all of a sudden continue flying again.
Yeah, I don't think that they're time slips. I think that they're dimensional slips. And, when people talk about the fact that they went back to a time period where there was, 1920s garb and stuff, well, who's to say that in that reality that's not modern fashion? I don't...
Well, like you were just saying there, the time... I've thought about something interesting no one ever brings up. Possibly the time slips. Like, say there's a place that... There's all these stories of it from the 1900s, 1910, 1920. The people back then are seeing ghosts. They're hearing voices. So a place is famous for being haunted. Well, could it be being haunted because the people nowadays are slipping through to that time, causing the place to be haunted or what they thought was haunted, when it's actually just the investigators now going back in time and them seeing it. So it's kind of like this big loop.
Right.
That's a great question, Joe. I mean, when we do paranormal investigations, at one point we do EVP work and everything, and I would actually, at one point, I believed that we were their ghosts, that we were in that area,
exactly,
and we became their ghosts because some of the stuff was like going, "Who are you?" or "Did you hear that?" Or some of the replies that they would make would be very much like, "Hey."
So basically, like the others, but with nobody being dead.
Right.
Essentially.
Yeah. Well, it would be like people say, there was a time slip. I walked into an old bar from the 1800s, and they actually saw the people sitting there, drinking and hanging out and shooting pool and playing cards, and then they noticed some of the people stop and look at them.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's,
Joe,
they're seeing the ghost. Yeah, what?
So Joe, just like when I saw Hitler in Germany.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe Hitler saw you and went, "Oh shit, what was that?"
Well, no, and that's the thing with the Hitler and his entourage, when they saw us, didn't look shocked. And that didn't dawn on me until, after my buddy and I were walking down the alley away from it. And when we both stopped and described the exact same picture that we had seen walking down the alley, we both saw Hitler and his entourage. But they stopped.
Did you realize it was Hitler?
Oh, God, yeah. Because we saw the 1920s limousine with the Hitler, with the Nazi flag and the German flag on each side of it.
Right.
We saw his entourage come out of the building, and our vision went to black and white.
So do you think Hitler was just sitting there going, "Oh man, more effects from the Nazi Bell experiment"?
No, because that's the thing. They didn't recognize us. I don't know if they saw us as just Germans walking down the street or U.S. GIs walking down the street, but they didn't look shocked whatsoever. Anyway, with that, we have to break it off. And been a great show, guys. It went fast as usual. So, Barry, where can we find Into the Fire?
Into the Fire, Blog Talk Radio, www.blogtalkradio.com / Into the Fire. This Tuesday, we have Lauren Fenton on. Really looking forward to spending 2 hours with her. And Night Stalkers Paranormal, Night Stalkers Paranormal Facebook page, nightstalkersparanormal.org, Barry Gaunt on Facebook, or the Kentucky Truth Seeker. So.
And Rosella, where can we find the Haunted Tour of Ireland and your Haunted Tour blog?
So if you go to my Facebook page, it's usually kind of easier because it's a long thing, but it's My Haunted Travels, My Haunted Travel blog.blogspot.com. But if you go to my Facebook page under Rosella C. Rowe author, you can find all my latest posts and things. And my book, 2095, comes out June 12th with 7 Star Press.
Outstanding. And Joe, where can we find your pointy sticks?
Pointy sticks can be found almost everywhere, but always keep them. Remember, Always have a pointy stick. Yeah, I don't have a page, but I'm just sitting out here in the woods waiting for Bigfoot to walk by or something to fly over.
Joe, where can we find the bunker?
I'm not telling you where the bunker is.
That's in an undisclosed location in California.
All right, ladies and
You
gentlemen.
keep on knocking, but you can't come in.
Don't forget, we've got the month of May giveaways. We're giving away S4 swag bags this year. This month. We've got one more, and then we've got a huge one at the end. Email us at s4radiowinner@gmail.com for your chance to win. Send us your best paranormal experience or one that you know of. Add your name and the best way to get a hold of you in case you win. We will be drawing on the third hour of each show. The last week of May, we will draw again from the Nail the Names, and the winner will receive an extra large swag bag. You must follow S4 Paranormal Radio on Facebook to be eligible. You can find us at S4 Paranormal Radio on Facebook, at S4 Paranormal on Twitter, and at our website, www.s4radio.com.
Outstanding. And next week will be our Memorial Day show. If you are a veteran, you want to be on the show and talk about military paranormal, get a hold of me. So, the 31st, we have Dr. Simeon Hines, who is going to come on and talk about crop circles, the alien connection, cryptids, and UFOs. And everyone have a safe week. If you have any issues, get a hold of us. And remember, keep your eyes to the skies.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight on S4, the official voice of Forest Moon Paranormal. You can contact S4 through our website at www.s-4radio.com or on Facebook. Make sure you give us a like on our page and join the Forest Moon Paranormal group. If you are interested in advertising, take a look at our packages and contact Cole or Eric at 1-360-999-2830. Again, thank you. And remember, keep your eyes to the sky.